Solo l'Inter. There is only Inter. And I can tell you there have been times over the course of the last 24 hours here in Munich that it has felt a little bit like there is only Inter, because their fans are here en masse. They've been going crazy because some of the real Inter legends of the past who are still involved in the club have just been on the pitch in front of us, like Javier Zanetti, a massive part of the Inter team that won the Champions League for the last time in 2010. They come here looking to win their 4th European Cup. Paris Saint-Germain have never won it. Never. Their fans are away to our left-hand side, so many of them wearing white shirts. Their coach, Luis Enrique, was actually on the pitch just a few minutes ago, standing, nodding, taking it all in like he hasn't been there, seen it, done it all before, and got the T-shirt. So here inside the stadium, we're going to have so much for you across the course of the next hour and 20 minutes before kick-off. You can follow all the action as we get ready for the game. You can listen to tonight's commentary with the final score graphics. Go to BBC iPlayer or the BBC Sport app. Click on Champions League final score. Our build-up looks like this. So our EuroLeague's regulars will drop in, just for a few minutes here and there. Guillaume Balaguer, Julien Laurent, James Horncastle periodically arriving in the commentary position. Loads of big names on the way as well. We're going to hear from Champions League winner here at the Allianz Arena with Chelsea, Petr Cech, PSG cult hero JJ Okocha, Gaizka Mendieta, we'll hear from him, 2 times a finalist with Valencia, a former teammate of both Luis Enrique and the coach he bears so many similarities to, Pep Guardiola. Stadium's brilliant. Correspondent John Murray is with us, of course, throughout the evening. Great stadium, great looking final.
Yeah, beautiful day, beautiful evening, and if it's anything like it was last night, outside the stadium, probably about now, just when the sun is beginning to think about setting, you will, from right outside this magnificent arena, be able to see very clearly the Alps etched against the horizon to the south. It's a great city to host a final like this. It's a great stadium. I was in the English Garden this morning, and it was absolutely stunning. It was verdant, it was green, the temperature was wonderful. However, that's as close as we're going to get to anything English involved in this Champions League final. Nevertheless, there is still plenty to attract us and entertain us, I hope, this evening.
This is also the closest that you and I will ever get to the European Cup, because we're about, 30 rows back pitch side here, just about 10-15 metres away from the halfway line, John. And there it is. And how many times we do programmes and we're standing next to trophies and you talk about the trophy and you describe it and you say it's gleaming away. There's nothing like the European Cup. It's so much bigger than it looks on the TV as well.
Yeah, and I think anyone who has had any love and interest for football in Europe, that trophy means so much to them. And when I was growing up, they were the start of those incredible glory years for the English clubs in the late 70s and the early 80s, which was started by Liverpool. And I always remember the sort of grainy footage that I'd be watching at the time of the UEFA president, I think he was at the time, Artemio Franchi, who would always enjoy his moment as he was handing over that trophy down there to whoever the captain was. He would always just lift it up himself before he actually gave it to the captain of the winning team.
So many great faces of European football. As we look up and down the touchline here, immediately I'm just drawn to the figure of Arsene Wenger, who is right in front of us, almost looking back up to the commentary position. So tons to come from here inside the stadium. Of course, it's also a historic day for BBC television, because we'll have our first ever Champions League final match of the day. Thomas Hitzelsberg and Nader Manua both on it. Good evening, guys.
Good evening. Good evening.
Thomas, I was really, really interested to see that you scored the second goal in this stadium. Now, that must feel special, because when you were growing up on the books at Bayern before you left, this thing was just a blueprint, an idea, an acorn of what it's grown into.
Well, you've just made my day. See, I remember I scored in the stadium. I didn't know I was the second goal scorer there. And as you can imagine, it's my hometown. I would love to be there in the stadium, but it's equally as nice being here with Nadim and commentating on the game. Yeah.
Nadim, you've been here this season as well. I mean, it's a heck of a stadium for a Champions League final. It's one of the greats,
absolutely it is. Absolutely is. It was my first time going there to watch Bayern against Leverkusen. I think I was with you, Thomas, for that game.
Yeah, you were.
Listen, I can't go anywhere without Thomas Hitzelsberger. But do you know what I love, Steve? Like, you're at the game and we can hear the Paris Saint-Germain fans already. These two sides, for as good as they are, they're so well supported. And the noise is going to be absolutely amazing because this is an hour and 15 before kickoff and it feels like the game's going on right now.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite amazing, John, actually, wasn't it, that when the big screens were sort of lit up with the two team buses arriving, the noise for Ousmane Dembele, just the picture of him getting off the bus, the noise for Lautaro Martinez just getting off the bus was immense.
Well, the point is, and we should make it really right at the outset, is for these Paris Saint-Germain supporters, yes, it's their second final in this competition, but of course the first one in 2020, Thomas Tuchel's PSG, that was the COVID final behind closed doors in Lisbon. So these fanatical and so emotional PSG supporters that I've seen time and time again this season, knocking out the English clubs, beating the English clubs, they've got their chance here today to be here and witness, little like we've been talking about Liverpool recently, to witness their team tonight playing in the Champions League final. And similarly, at the other end, Inter, have got recent experience of seeing their team get this far but lose in Istanbul against Manchester City. So that's probably part of the reason why we have the atmosphere already that is coming over the airwaves.
Yeah, I mean, it feels absolutely spectacular in here. An hour and 15 minutes to kick off. John's just been talking about Paris Saint-Germain's journey to this final and how they've just done for all of the English Champions League teams. So let's hear first from the man who was in front of us just a few moments ago, taking in the atmosphere inside the Allianz, the PSG boss, Luis Enrique, whose side have beaten Pep Guardiola, Arne Slot, Unai Emery and Mikel Arteta in the Champions League this season.
If you think about the level of the Premier League teams, we can see the final of Europa League and also the Conference League, winning for English teams. We had to play against them many times this season, and I think it was tough, really tough, but at the same time we could analyze and enjoy playing our football against them, and I think we deserve to get that final. Yeah, that's it. I think we are ready. I hope we can get it, and that's our plan, our idea. We'll see in the future.
There he is, Luis Enrique. So correspondent John Murray is with us, Nader Manur and Thomas Hitzelsberger, Champions League analysts tonight. We've got BBC TV's first Champions League final match of the day at 11 p.m. I said our EuroLeague's regulars will drop by from time to time. Good evening, Guillaume Balaguer.
Good evening, Steve.
And what perfect timing as we hear from Luis Enrique, and people can go and read your profile of him on the BBC Sport website. This is a huge night for him.
Yes and no. Yes, absolutely. He could get a treble with PSG. He obviously has worked all year for this. This is the culmination of a new era at PSG that started with meeting with the bosses and saying, I don't want some of the players that are there. I want to change the culture there. So Verratti left, Neymar left, Mbappé finally left as well. And yes, there's of course prestige and so much more related to it. But at the same time, I think he's one of those managers that if he loses today, not that it doesn't matter, but certainly he will move on quite quickly. He's going to do everything in his power, and he has done this season, to make the side better. But if it doesn't happen, they'll try again.
You know, Thomas and Nadim, one of the things that struck me just about that little clip from Luis Enrique, and that was the answer that he gave in English, talking about the Premier League teams. He said, oh yeah, but we could analyse and enjoy. I wonder if you can both analyse and enjoy taking on this Inter Milan team, because they're not just they are resolute, but they're not just resolute.
No, not at all. I think in the group phase of the Champions League, they did feel resolute in the fact that I think they had the best defensive record going into the knockouts, and they didn't score a ton of goals. So yes, it's felt as if the games that they were involved in were a little bit on the, not necessarily hard to watch, but not as, say, glamorous as, say, watching Barcelona, for example, who end up leaving as top scorers in the competition. But then as soon as they went to the knockouts, they found a different way because they had to score. So many times where, the other team is potentially taking it to them, and they found a way. And then before you know it, they're playing in classics like that two-legged tie against Barcelona the round before. So, yeah, it's really interesting because this Inter side, through the knockouts, they've changed my perception of them. I don't know if you'd agree, Thomas.
Well, I do agree. The thing is, obviously, I enjoy watching PSG going forward, all the individual players, how they work as a team. But then I think Inter's game against Bayern at the Allianz Arena changed my perception. I actually started to enjoy watching a team defend, because the way Inter defend, they seem to have joy in sitting back and waiting for that perfect moment. That's when they hurt Bayern, when they scored the winner. That for me was that is brilliant football, because when we talk about here, who's a better team? And PSG, they beat 4 Premier League teams. This is always the English perspective, but we haven't probably seen enough of Inter.
Yes.
The teams they beat, the way they beat them. Yeah. That's why I really have huge respect for Inter, and that's why I say this is 50-50 tonight.
In about 3-4 days I've been in Munich, I haven't found a single person that goes like, PSG's going to win, or yeah, Inter's going to win. It's just, in a way, like the perfect movie, isn't it? With an uncertain ending, 2 main characters that are completely different, 2 brands of football, a young club in PSG and one that has won 3 European Cups in Inter, a team that's starting to be built, if you like, in PSG, but one that perhaps today will be the last time they're together in a changing room at Inter, and they both fell at the last hurdle. They felt that they lost finals recently, but they won really big games, which Luis Enrique in the press conference called them finals this season. They won big games, so they're capable of almost beat anything that's in their way. So I don't know, has anybody got an answer to this? No.
Nope. But that is what makes it great, Thomas. And actually, just as Guillaume was talking there, I'm finding it really difficult to stop looking at the European Cup. It's really hard. Arsene Wenger's just standing in front of it now, and it's got these sort of red and blue ribbons somewhere sort of between PSG red, blue and Inter dark blue and black on it at the moment. I was thinking, why does it look a bit weird? And it looks weird because it hasn't got white ribbons on it. That's why it looks weird. It's a Champions League final without an English team and the might they bring, Thomas, and without Real Madrid. That's one of the reasons it feels different.
Well, of course, I totally understand it, because at the beginning of the season we were talking about the format and favourites. I did not think of PSG or Inter to get to the final, but of course now they're in the final. I said that they both deserve it. The only other team that I could see in the final and say it's justified is Barcelona. I think we've all watched both semi-finals between Inter and Barcelona. That was a spectacle. Both games were, and that's why this is really, really amazing. There have been some amazing teams. We look at Liverpool, the way the season was going, and I thought, well, they go all the way. And tonight is going to be absolutely phenomenal, and I think that people got so much to look forward to. And as I said, I can't predict anybody, but Nadam, I'm sure you always get it right.
No, absolutely, I never get it right. That's the problem. I think in regards to these 2 teams as well, what's really interesting from the variation is that Paris Saint-Germain, 2 games to go in the group phase, were outside of qualifying for the knockouts. Whereas for Inter, I feel like they've always been in the top 8. So their route to this point has always felt a bit clearer. We've understood how good they are. We've understood that for the last few years they've been a team who would have a belief that they can go and win the whole thing. Whereas with Paris, we had doubts. In that first phase, we had doubts because, like Julien, when he comes on, he will say how they played well. But in reality, they lost games. Sorry, Guillaume.
No, sorry, that was just me laughing at you, Nid. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Jules.
I'm throwing it forward to when Jules arrives and tries to pretend that Paris Saint-Germain aren't favourites.
Well, yeah, of course, that's the way you protect yourself as a human being, isn't it? Yes. Especially about your football club. But in that first few games, they were losing games of football whilst having tons of chances, and they had question marks around them. Then they played against the Man City side, I think, in the penultimate game, and they destroyed them. And that kind of was a way to let you see what was coming next, because I believe they won their next game, then they destroyed Brest, I think, in the next stage, and before you know it, they come up against all the teams. As Thomas has said, there's obviously a very much an English bias here.
But of course, telling the front 3 to really work for the team, and Dembélé is the player that stands out. And once Luis Enrique managed to get hold of him and say, listen, you've got a job to do for the team, and once you do this, it makes your life easier going forward and creating chances and scoring goals. And that for me was key. Some of the big names have left the club, and some other young big names are already there. And to be fair, if they don't win tonight, I can see them do it next season or the season after.
Let's talk about next season. Let's talk about the now. So how about this then for you, Thomas? Do you prefer to be the side that is older and more experienced in Inter Milan, or the young side with all those legs and that youthful exuberance? Which would you rather be today?
Well, if I was a fan, of course I preferred on the PSG side, because there's so much to look forward to over the next few years. And with Inter, as well as Simone Inzaghi has done, you don't know what's going to happen next season. In the Serie A, they've just missed out to win the Scudetto. It's always the age. When you look at Italian teams, are usually always a bit older than the rest, but they seem to pull it off. Do you think now is the time where they need to change again, and the next season they're still there? So I admire them, what they've done, but PSG is probably the team I would pick to answer your question.
You said it, Steve, that's it. There we go.
Naden, Thomas, thank you both very much indeed. Enjoy Champions League final match of the day. It'll be great.
Cheers.
Naden Manura and Thomas Hitzelsberger there, who'll be with you. BBC One, 11 p.m. John Murray, we have the team news.
We've got the team news, and it's pretty much as we expected. But I think the headlines, one headline for both. The fact that for PSG, it is Désiré Doué who starts rather than Barcola. So Barcola is among the substitutes. But the PSG team, Donnarumma in goal, Hakimi, Marquinhos, Pacho and Nuno Mendes. Then Vitinha with João Neves and Fabian Ruiz. And then the front line for the final of Désiré Doué, Dembele and Kvaratskhelia. So Barcola on the bench for PSG. And the headline for Inter is that the former Bayern Munich man, Benjamin Pavard, is fit. Yesterday, Inzaghi said only if he is 100% fit will he start. But he said if he is 100% fit, he will definitely start. And he starts. So Bissek is on the substitutes bench. So Sommer in goal, Pavard, Acerbi and Bastoni, the three central defenders. Then Dumfries and DiMarco as the wing-backs. Çalhanoğlu, Barella and Mkhitaryan, and Thuram and Lautaro Martinez up front.
All right, so we're going to have loads of time to dissect that. But Guillaume, just before we let you go, looking at that Inter lineup, where is the area of most concern for Luis Enrique?
To be honest, if Inter Milan do what they do well, and they've done most of the season, which is to defend well on the edge of the box and around the box, the danger is if the midfielders steal the ball and counter-attack, because even though PSG is a structured team and they will try to defend themselves for that and be together when they attack as well, so if they lose it, they're there to recover it. There will be occasions, especially in the first hour, 70 minutes, where Inter will be able to counter-attack, and if that happens, they're very, very, very good at it. But if it gets to the minute 70 and nothing has happened, I think I'll mortgage my house on PSG then.
Don't do that. Thank you, Guillaume.
Cheers.
That's Guillaume Balaguer from the EuroLeague. James Horncastle will drop by at some point. Julien Laurent will drop by at some point. We'll be speaking to Danny Murphy as well shortly. Your summariser for the TV coverage, the highlights later of the Champions League final. We have got just over an hour to go until full commentary of Inter Milan against Paris Saint-Germain, from Munich to Paris and Roland Garros. We'll talk Jack Draper in a moment. First of all, though, there's that all-British clash taking place. Cam Norrie against Jacob Fernley, and Abigail Johnson is watching.
And I can tell you there is no escaping the football factor here. Cameron Norrie and Jacob Fernley on court Simon Mathieu, which is at the very edge of the grounds, playing through fireworks and car horns. It's all been a little much for the British number 2, Jacob Fernley, so far. He's in his first ever Roland Garros third round, up against a man he's called inspiring, Cameron Norrie, former world number 8 and also a graduate of Texas Christian University. A little erratic from Fernley, but he has forced the second set tiebreak here after Norrie took the opener. It is Norrie, though, 4 points to 1 up in the tiebreak.
And this follows, doesn't it, just a ruthless performance from Jack Draper.
It was utterly impressive from the current world number 5 and shows how much Jack Draper has grown over the past 12 months. He lost in the first round here in 5 sets last season. The body is stronger, the focus is linear. He was up against Brazilian teenage sensation João Fonseca, who's been junior world number 1. He dominated, he controlled with the serve and from the back of the court, and he kept it to the clinical straight sets. That could mean a lot going deeper into the tournament.
And we've got the main event, haven't we, still to come on Chatrier?
It is the main event. It's the night session. Novak Djokovic, the 24-time Grand Slam champion, will be up against the qualifier from Austria, Filip Misalic. But Misalic, who's never been ranked inside the world's top 120, might be a little thankful that there's a certain big football match going on, because it's going to be incredibly overwhelming walking out onto the biggest show court to take on one of the greatest athletes of all time, having never had the experience of being inside the world's top 100. Big task for Misalic tonight against the 3-time former champion.
Abigail, thank you very much indeed. Here inside the Allianz Arena, the Paris Saint-Germain supporters have just really started to flood in. I can see a couple of Brazil flags. I mean, Marquinhos isn't the only Brazilian in this squad, but I feel like they may be for him. We'll discuss him, his impact on the team. Ousmane Dembele and his impact as I turn to the right and I just see a sea of blue and black and the yellow shirts that Inter will be playing in this Champions League final tonight. Lautaro Martinez, he'll be one of the big focuses. The two goalkeepers, we'll hear from Petr Cech on Donnarumma at one end and Jan Sommer at the other. 1 hour from kickoff, the build-up to the Champions League final continues after the news with Nick Qureshi.
The voice of the UK.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
British steelmakers say they expect to be hit very hard by a 50% tariff announced by Donald Trump. The doubling in import taxes is due to take effect on Wednesday. Gareth Stace is the head of UK Steel.
This further tariff tax hike will deliver a serious body blow to the UK steel sector. We were hoping to see a removal of the tariffs. So to wake up this morning to a doubling of the tariffs to 50% will deliver serious concern and confusion to our sector here in the UK.
The body of a girl has been recovered from the River Thames. It was found near Gravesend, where 2 children got into trouble yesterday. The boy is in a stable condition in hospital. Beijing has issued a strong response to a warning by the American Defense Secretary that an attack by China on Taiwan could be imminent. The Chinese embassy in Singapore said the US was the biggest troublemaker in the region. Hamas says it's prepared to return 10 living hostages and the bodies of another 18 in exchange for the release of Palestinian prisoners from Israeli custody. But it's repeated certain demands which are not included in the US ceasefire proposal. Campaigners say a ban on the sale of single-use vapes may have a limited effect in protecting the environment. The aim is to cut down on waste and make the products less attractive to children. Marcus Saxton is from the independent British Vape Trade Association.
There's no doubt that there is too many millions upon millions of these products, single use, that have gone into landfill. So environmentally, there is a really good opportunity. So far as youth access, unlikely. It's illegal today, let alone when the ban comes into effect, to sell to a minor. And therefore, it's those rogue traders that aren't following the legal responsibility that are the challenge.
And the UK's oldest and smallest private army has its full complement of 20 for the first time since 1890. 13 new warders of the Hillsborough Fort Ceremonial Guard have been given their warrants at a parade in County Down.
The Champions League on BBC Radio 5 Live.
There's the final whistle, and Paris Saint-Germain are going to Munich.
Tonight at 8, PSG face Inter Milan in the Champions League final.
Hakimi! Right foot! Bottom corner!
Inter have got the know-how as well. They want to finish this era with a title.
And hear all the analysis and reaction on the Football Daily podcast.
The Champions League.
Listen live. Ask your smart speaker
to play BBC Radio 5 Live.
This is 5 Live Sport.
The Champions League with Steve Crossman.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
Less than an hour to kick off. The Champions League final on the way. Paris Saint-Germain and Inter Milan. The PSG supporters have hoisted their banners in the air and are waving them back and forth in the hot and close Munich weather this evening. It's going to be some final. Both teams have suffered heartbreak before. Both have walked the hard road to the end game this time.
Yeah, we see tears from Neymar, but he didn't do enough tonight for PSG, and Bayern Munich deservedly win the Champions League.
Tears of joy from the Manchester City fans, 1 or 2 of the tears of desperation from the Inter players.
Fabian Ruiz! Oh, he scored! Fabian Ruiz makes it 1-0 on the night to Paris Saint-Germain.
It's a good ball in, Thuram! Wonderful finish to put Inter in front.
Çalhanoğlu. The ball's in the back of the Arsenal net. The Italian champions have the lead here.
Lautaro Martinez, it's 2! And even at this very early stage, Monaco simply cannot handle Inter.
Virginia takes this in right to the back post, it's headed in! And Manchester City's players, they've been absolutely bombarded by Paris Saint-Germain.
Taremi's little layoff, Fratesi! Oh, he's done it! David Fratesi puts Inter in front yet again.
on aggregate. Inter 7, Barcelona 6. Hakimi, right foot, bottom corner. The right back has clinched it surely for Paris Saint-Germain. That's finished the semi-final. Inter Milan are Munich bound for their 7th European Cup final.
So it's Inter for the first time in 15 years, or Paris Saint-Germain for the first time. Correspondent John Murray still with us. Chris Sutton and Danny Murphy have joined us. Guys, you've been able to have your headphones off for a few moments. This is something else, Danny, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a pretty special occasion. I was here yesterday, we got here, and last night I was in Munich, and it was Italians everywhere. The Inter Milan fans were loud, boisterous, they were in good spirits. But it's great to see. It's just what you want from a European final. Two sets of fans who are just desperate for their team to get over the line.
Chris?
Yeah, and we're an hour away from kickoff. I mean, and it's it's pretty raucous in it at this moment. What it's going to be like in an hour's time, who knows? But it's a fascinating final because we've all got our ideas about how we think it's going to pan out. But with the contrast of styles with these two teams, you just don't know.
Yep, I mean, people have been asking, haven't they? But it really does feel like 50-50. We're talking about two teams who've got their own style, their own way of playing. PSG with that dynamic front three. Inter Milan, who some have called pragmatic in the past, but they certainly weren't that in the semi-final against Barcelona at times in that game. They went toe for toe, end to end. It was a really, really good game to watch. So I'm expecting big things tonight. I mean, I don't normally get too excited by big games, but tonight I really am. I think we could have a really special final.
So is it because there's no obvious favourite that big? The PSG, by the way, their goalkeepers are just coming out, so we've got our first look at the massive figure of Gigi Donnarumma with his white gloves and his shades of blue training kit, waves to the fans. My goodness me, Danny. I know he's big, but he's not big, is he? He's massive.
Oh, you wouldn't want to take a penalty against him, would you, Chris? I mean, come on. He's actually, in the last couple of the Arsenal and Villa game, he had two outstanding games, second legs, didn't he? Made some saves that you don't expect keepers to make because he's that big and that agile. He could play a key role tonight. But it's going to be fascinating because of all the different battles all over the pitch, and more importantly, that tactical one, because Milan play in the back three against PSG's front three, of course.
Here come Inter, gold shorts, blue shirts. Jan Sommer, the other great goalkeeper of this final. We're going to hear a bit closer to kickoff from Petr Cech, who I've been speaking to about the differences between these two keepers. I mean, Sommer looks tiny next to Donnarumma, but then so does absolutely everybody else. Chris, the player who got the biggest cheer when we saw the teams walk into the stadium for PSG, though, was Ousmane Dembele. 33 goals, 13 assists this season. There is a feeling, isn't there, if he were to play well and they were to win, he could be a Ballon d'Or winner.
Yeah, there is that feeling, and it's amazing, really, because over the years, I think I'm the same as Danny. I never saw him as a centre forward, so to sort of throw him up as Luis Enrique has done, and to have that goals return, 33 goals this season you mentioned. I think his previous best was something like 14 in a season, but he's on fire. He's not a sort of conventional centre forward as we know it, but I don't think he'll play up against the centre halves. I think he's one who will drift. He'll come short. He plays a bit on instinct, on feeling, and has worked so well for PSG. So they're not going to change that.
The thing that's also incredible about him, Chris, as well, is he got dropped for the Arsenal game, didn't he? If you remember, away. There was talk of a little fallout, and he gave him a little kick up the backside by leaving him out. He then gives him a free role in that central, like Chris said, go where you want, do drop in, go where you go wide, do whatever you need to do to impact the game. And his goals tally is like no other season he's ever had before. So, he's going to be a big player for them. But they've got talent all across that front three, haven't they?
Right, let's bring in the most nervous man in Munich. Good evening, Julien Laurent.
Hello, guys. Hi, Steve. Hi, everyone.
How you doing?
I'm so stressed. I haven't eaten all day. I don't think I could eat. I mean, I saw you at lunchtime, and I was stressed already, and now I'm sweating as well as stressed because it's so hot. I guess play the occasion. No, was it play
the game, not the occasion?
Yeah, but I'm not good at not playing the occasion.
Keep you out of that dressing room without it's a great point though, right? Because Chris, we can talk a bit more about Dembele specifically in a second. But PSG play some wonderful stuff, all right? Some great stuff. Finals, big finals, often end up being cagey. If this ends up being that kind of final, is it more suited to Inter than it is to PSG?
Yeah, well, that's what makes it fascinating, isn't it? PSG aren't going to change the way that they play. But what's also fascinating is, the contrast in ages, and that's been spoken a lot in the build-up to the final. It is a young team. Let's get it right. I think Marquinhos is their oldest player, the only player over 30. I think Fabian Ruiz is just under 30. The rest are all sort of kids in footballing terms. And then you look at the sort of battle-hardened Inter team, Mkhitaryan in there, Chanalolu, Acerbi at the back, and they will be cagey. They are streetwise. They will try and ruffle a few feathers with PSG, and they will look to frustrate. But I think Danny touched on it. I don't think that this is going to be an Inter team who sits back all game. I think they'll pick their moments when they do press, and when they press, they'll press with vigour and intent. They'll try and win the ball back high up. Danny touched on the Barcelona game. That was an incredible game, and the early goals for them came from them being brave and pressing. So it's not going to be one where they just sit in and let PSG dictate and eventually find a way of scoring. They'll have a plan, they'll be versatile, they'll be adaptable, and that may be a problem for PSG.
I think Chris makes some great points. I mean, the two wing-backs, when they get the opportunity, we've seen them fly forward time and time again, and it's going to be interesting to see if the two wide boys for PSG do the defending, or they let their full-backs take the wing-backs as they come onto them, because if they do that, we're talking about man-to-man all over the pitch. Then we could be in for an epic. We could have goals galore, but I don't want to tempt fate, so I'll shut up.
I agree with what the boys have just said. I guess what happened 2 years ago as well with Inter, we were talking before the show with Chris, we were together in Istanbul. If you're Inter, what happened 2 years ago when you were probably the better team against Manchester City on that day, on that game, and you had a lot of regrets after? Is it an extra motivation to go and win tonight? Or on the other hand, it's like you can't lose again tonight. You can't lose a second final in 3 seasons. So the pressure is probably even bigger in a way because you didn't win the one 2 years ago.
Come on. It's not bigger in a way. PSG haven't won a final. So
True.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, and people can look at it saying a final. Look at the PSG, the age of the team. There's plenty of time for them in years to come to win a final. Of course there is, but football doesn't really work like that, does it? Especially at this level, the absolute elite level.
But you don't think there's extra pressure for Inter because they would lose a second final in 3 years? Nobody does that. Valencia did that. They never went again to a final.
You can spin it whichever way you want to favour your PSG team. However you want to do it. There's pressure on both.
There is.
The ageing Inter team, is it a last chance for some of the players? Of course it is. And, there may be a bit of edginess, because of that. But nobody knows how this is going to pan out. That's what makes it so great.
That's true.
I do think as well the failures sometimes creates resilience. So this Inter side, they've played in big games. They're not going to be fazed by it. But because you've lost, especially in the City game where they felt like they did okay, that can actually help them grow and get over the line, be that little bit more determined. But Chris is right. I mean, you just don't know how players are going to react on a big day like this.
Absolutely.
Irrelevant of a little bit experience or not.
Are PSG, Jules, more of a team now Mbappe's gone? If Mbappe was here this evening, would that make a huge difference in the way that they set out and the way that they press the ball? What's your view on that?
Yeah, because he doesn't press.
Would they have got here even with him? They wanted to keep him. He decided to go. We talked enough about that.
I asked him this earlier and he hated it.
No, it's not that, because there's been the only moment we've spoken about Mbappe back home this week has been, where is he now? Is he watching? Does he want PSG to win? Could he have come here to the stadium? Because this is still the club that he supported as a kid as well. So he's not here. We're not sure if he's watching. But I think, Chris, this team is better without him than they would have been with him, and they're better than what they had when he was there last season. And as much as I love Kylian myself, he brings you 45, 50 goals a season. This is great. But for what Danny just said, this team is good and is here because they all play together, they attack together, they defend together. They don't defend at 10 and one doesn't do anything. They don't attack with the ball having to go to a one player all the time like they used to when he was in this team. It's very different. So, yeah, I think they are better now than they were when he was there or if he had been here.
Can I just ask you a quick question on Doué? Because obviously he's been chosen out of Barcola tonight. The games I've seen, to be fair, only the semi and the quarters, he seems to do his work okay. But has he got that mindset off the ball?
Yeah,
has he got that?
Yeah, absolutely. And he's young, and a 19-year-old in a Champions League final doesn't happen often, but he's got the mentality and he knows that defensive work tonight against Di Marco or against one of the two centre forward for Inter, or one of Mkhitaryan, for example, going forward. That's his job. That's for him, and he will do it.
So Danny's asked you one on that side. The other side, Kvaratskhelia, him coming in January. What difference has he made? Would PSG be here if he hadn't signed?
And they were really good, remember, against Manchester City in that second half when they turned the game around. And he was not involved because he had signed but was not registered for the Champions League. But he's been wonderful in possession because he's one of those old kind of wingers, right? Where you don't know if he's going to go on the outside, on the inside, right foot, left foot. And that makes him special. And then defensively, out of possession, the guy works so hard. He helps Nuno Mendes so much. And he will do it again today on Dumfries and whoever is on that PSG left-hand side.
Just two or three of the individuals there that we're going to focus on before kick-off, because there are potential match winners by the bucket load on both sides this evening. Good question on Kylian Mbappe. Where could he be tonight? Maybe he'd be at Roland Garros watching a couple of Brits, Abigail.
Maybe. I mean, there have been plenty of fireworks out here and not just on the court. Cam Norrie looking the more comfortable man on court Simon Mathieu right now. He contests his fourth Roland Garros third round against tournament debutant Jacob Fernley. Second set fight back from Fernley, but it's Norrie whose precision off the ground is holding up. He's got the 2-0 lead and 1-all 30 in the third set.
Right, we promised you a few cult heroes from European football. Here's a great one. JJ Okocha, big part of the PSG team in the late 90s before he just came and lit up the Premier League with Bolton Wanderers. Talking about players expressing themselves whenever they play. Well, that was him. So here he is on how this PSG team have moved past the likes of Mbappe and Messi and Neymar to this new team, this new era, especially Ousmane Dembélé.
He was under the shadow of Messi and Mbappe and all that, and sometimes some players need that responsibility, they need that confidence, and I think that's what has been given to him, to make him realize that he's now one of the leaders, and he's taking it in good faith and had a wonderful season, and it would be great to see him crown it tomorrow, especially after the so-called mega stars in the team left. They've shown a lot of character, got good team spirit, and of course we know that if you get it right on the day, you can beat anybody, so they've got a very good chance in the final.
When those megastars left, did you think they could do this so quickly?
Well, no. I mean, to be honest, I was expecting them to take more time to build, and that was why I think they brought Luis Enrique, who is used to working with youth or young players, But, I mean, the way that the team improved, the pace that they did it, it's unbelievable.
So much pace, so many amazing dribblers. I think you're a Kvaratskhelia guy, but I don't know, you tell me.
It's all about getting the balance right, I think they play very attractive football, they try to keep possession, and of course if you want to be a possession team, you have to have players that are got skills, so I think that's what they've got in their squad.
What do you think about the whole PSG project?
Well, I think them qualifying for the final is a testimony to the amount of job that have been put into the club, And of course, now they've changed the perspective of the club from paying huge amount of transfer fee to growing their own young players. It is amazing to see how far they've come.
Are they more of a team now?
Oh, they are, because I think they have players that haven't got ego, players that are playing more for the club than their own personal accolades. So I think, of course, they are more like a team.
That's JJ Okocha speaking to me here in Munich. Julian Laurent, Chris Sutton, correspondent John Murray, and Danny Murphy with us for another minute or so. Danny, we've talked so much about this project. It's so interesting hearing Okocha, and Claude Makelele said it to us yesterday as well. You really get the sense loads of people attached to PSG are really happy they've gone down this road and completely flipped the script on what they used to do.
Absolutely, because what they're seeing is a brilliant team that's rounded. It's got creativity and dynamism and pace when they've got the ball, and without it, they all work to win it back like you expect. It's funny listening to JJ Okocha, actually, because every time I hear his voice makes me feel a bit nervous, because he's done things to me on a pitch that shouldn't be allowed. Honestly. He's absolutely taken me, honestly, to places I never thought of when we played against Bolton a couple. What a talent he was.
That's why I asked him about Kvaratskhelia.
Oh, he's got more than him in terms of skill and the things he can do. I mean, different type of player, but what a guy.
It's what we love, though, isn't it? Those great dribblers.
You love to see great players and bravery and talent on the pitch matched with a passion to win and do the right thing for your team. Talk about Kvaratskhelia, spit it out. He's got a great work ethic. He does the work, doesn't he, off the ball. It's not just the flash bits. Too many times we see the players who've got all the quality going forward and switch off going that way. But this PSG team, for me anyway, personally, I want to see them get over the line.
Great to have you with us, Danny. Thank you very much. Top man. That's Danny Murphy. You will be able to watch him later tonight in the first BBC Television Champions League final match of the day. He's a big part of the commentary team. 11 o'clock, BBC One, here inside the Allianz Arena. Well, the roar a couple of moments ago because the Paris Saint-Germain players have now emerged in their blue and white and red training tops, blue shorts, blue socks, right in front of the PSG supporters. So many of them wearing pristine white shirts, bouncing up and down. Donnarumma still there in the goal, filling the goal. He makes the goal look absolutely tiny. Let's pick up on Kvaratskhelia, I think then, Jules. There was a change in this PSG team. We keep talking about them like they've been amazing all season. They actually haven't.
Yeah, they started really slowly, especially in the Champions League. Like a very stuttering start where Luis Enrique was still trying to figure out the best way for this team to go forward. And as we said, it's a new project. There was no more Kylian Mbappe, no more of Neymar and Verratti and all those players. So he had to try to fit the pieces in the jigsaw in the best way possible, and that took a bit of time. The Ousmane Dembélé repositioning from right winger to false number 9, that midfield 3, find the right balance. Fabian Ruiz was not really in the team at the start of the season, then he established himself. Vitinha in front of the back 4, that back 4 as well behind them. It was just about the time to get things right, and he took his time and he finally got it, probably in that game against Manchester City.
So I was going to ask you that. Was there a moment, was there a game where you just suddenly felt that the switch had been flicked and here we go?
Yeah, I think that City second half, really, and I saw Vitinha last week at the media there, and he said it exactly. He said, like, this is where it all clicked. They went 2-0 down just after the start of that second half, and at that time, if they lose that game, I think they're probably out of the Champions League as a whole. And they turn it around with the most, exciting style of football, entertaining. They score 4 goals in the space of 30 minutes, destroy City in that second half, and after that they've never looked back since, really. And for me, that night in January, remember, John, you were under the rain, pouring rain all day in Paris. That's the moment where this team clicked, and that's the reason why they're here.
Yes, Matthew Upson got absolutely soaked that night. He had to hang his coat up at the back of the Parc des Princes to dry out. But that Jules, I put that to Luis Enrique before the Arsenal first leg. I was the same as you. I felt, not seeing every PSG game, it just felt that night that it really clicked. Yeah. A friend of ours that night said to us, that's the best he'd seen PSG play for 10 years. So I said to Luis Enrique before the Arsenal match, was that the night that it really clicked this season? And he was adamant that that was not where it happened. And he said the similar sort of thing yesterday when he was talking about how he knew that this group would get to this point. And so started kind of distancing himself from any moment where it clicked. The feeling was that it was always moving to this point.
We should understand there's something really good that Marquinhos said last week as well. He said, this new project, and this is very much year one of what we can call the Luis Enrique project, right? And the objective was not really to be in the final this year. They thought this would be a bit early, but they're here now, and they're going to try to obviously go all the way now. But he said that Luis Enrique had so many things to fix that he went like compartment by compartment. So first, build up phase. How you get that ball out from your goalkeeper to your wingers or to your centre forward. Then that midfield three, that fluidity within the structure. So you can have Vitinha as a holding midfielder first and Neves on his right, Ruiz on his left. But during the game, it could be Ruiz who's the holding, Neves on the left, Vitinha on the right. As long as the structure of them three is always right. And then the two wide players, how to get the ball as quick to them, then the pressing, then the counter-pressing. And when finally all those compartments have been worked on and coached and taught, then he said they were ready. And that's whether that's against City or a bit later against Stuttgart or against Liverpool, I don't know. And maybe they're not there up there yet, but I find it really interesting that they worked on all those departments of their game through those first 6 months of the season.
I think what we've got here with PSG is a real object lesson in how to assemble a team. You know, and all parts seem to work together. I was saying to Chris earlier this afternoon that, having seen those matches against the English clubs, in every area of the field there's someone who contributed to that, important moments in those wins. So you've got the assembling of the team, and you've also got the way that they're coached. And I think that's why they are where they are.
So you've got all that talent, and Jules talks about that Manchester City game, but then to dispatch the three English teams as they did do, to actually go to Anfield when they dominated the game in Paris, didn't they? And ended up losing 1-0, but to have that resilience, that toughness to go to Anfield and against Aston Villa and then Arsenal, and they had to weather a bit of a storm earlier on against Arsenal. Donnarumma making a couple of brilliant saves, and we're trying to look for things tonight about what are the weaknesses with PSG. Is it mental toughness? Well, nothing from this competition this season have told us that they're mentally weak.
No, I don't think it's mental. If there's one thing, if we analyse those games a bit better or deeper, against Aston Villa in the second half of that second leg at Villa Park, when Villa were 2-0 down, 5-1 down on aggregate and had nothing to lose anymore, they went after them. They were so aggressive, Villa. That midfield for Villa Park worked so hard, and they put Vitinha under pressure. They put PSG under pressure, and they rattled them. Same with Arsenal in the first 20 minutes of the semi-final second leg at the Parc des Princes, where PSG could not get out of their own box, could not get their patterns of play, because Arsenal was so aggressive, so into their faces, and that's when they got rattled again. Can Inter do that tonight? Maybe, but for how long? As we said, Inter don't have the legs to be able to chase after Vitinha, chase after the ball, chase after Neves, after Dembele, after Kvaratskhelia, or after Doué. So they will have to do it in a different way. But this PSG team can get rattled if you are more aggressive than they are with the ball.
I've suddenly got as nervous as you are, Jules. And the reason for that, I've just seen Tom Cruise is in the stadium. And if Tom Cruise is in the stadium, there's a danger there'll be some sort of stunt, isn't there?
I don't think tonight is about stunts for him.
I think if Tom Cruise is in the stadium, it means he's got to film out.
I think he's always got to film out, hasn't he, Tom Cruise? Right, what have we got? Just over half an hour to kick off. Let's flip it over to Inter. Simone Inzaghi in his press conference. This squad has given me a great deal. We've won a great deal. I think we've given everything, the players, the staff, the fans. We are proud to represent Inter. It's a competition I dreamt of playing in as a kid. I didn't make it. I didn't make it. I only got as far as the quarterfinals of the Champions League. But thanks to this group of players, I'll be involved in 2 Champions League finals as a head coach. Another one of our EuroLeague's team has dropped in with perfect timing. James Horncastle, good evening.
Frosty, do you know who I just walked past coming to this position?
Tom Cruise?
No.
Oh.
it was Simone Inzaghi's brother, Pippo, who obviously did win this as a player and was the man of the big occasion. Scored in Champions League finals for Inter's rivals, AC Milan. And yeah, you can only imagine what it's like in the Inzaghi household at the moment.
That is incredibly modest for him to say, well, I didn't really make it, I only got as far as the Champions League quarter-final. Does he wear his playing career, which was a great playing career, just because it wasn't his brother's, does he wear it lightly?
His brother really eclipsed him. I mean, Pippo was the man of the big occasion, as I just said, and was part of an AC Milan side that made history. Remember, reached 3 finals between 2003, 2005, 2007, and was party of such big moments that Simone winning the league with Lazio for the first time since the 70s, it didn't really make a ripple, in part because a lot of the Lazio players that were his teammates were bigger names than him. You know, the likes of Veron, Stankovic, Crespo, all of those guys. Simone Inzaghi kind of faded into the background. As a coach, that's completely different. His brother's been very successful as a guy who gets teams up from the second division into Serie A. He's done that with 3 different teams. But Simone is very much the coaching talent in that family.
What do you think he has learned from losing to Manchester City in the final a couple of years ago? Does he feel ready to win now?
I think they felt ready to win last year as well. I think they played better football last year. They ran away with the league. They ran away with the league in part because they came back from losing that final against Man City Istanbul saying, hang on a minute, this mythical team that has made English football history or matched what Man United did in winning a treble, we almost beat them. We could have taken them to extra time. We played better than them for an hour. And they wiped the floor of everyone in the league last year and should have knocked out Atletico. No one this year can begrudge Inter their place in the final because 2 years ago people said they had the easy side of the draw. They played Porto, they played Benfica, they played AC Milan in the semi-final. This time around, they've beaten all of the teams that you have to beat. Barcelona, Bayern Munich. They want to beat PSG tonight. I think they will.
That is the noise when the stadium announcer read out the name of Lautaro Martinez, and you may have just heard Acerbi screamed by the Inter fans away to our right-hand side. And he is simply a player, Francesco Acerbi, that we must talk about. He was the face of the win over Barcelona because he somehow, some way, got up to score at the end. His first ever goal in UEFA club competition. James, that's 1% of his story.
It really is. I mean, just that 1%. I mean, in that 93rd minute of that game, he looks to Matteo Darmian in his own penalty area and he just says, Io vado, I'm off, I'm going. And ran all the way to the other penalty area and obviously scored the goal that took the game to extra time. I mean, Acerbi was signed by AC Milan, so Inter's rivals, to replace Alessandro Nesta. Nesta, one of the greatest centre-backs in Italian football history. It was too much too soon for him. He said he used to go out partying, used to go out drinking. AC Milan got rid of him. He then tests positive for testosterone, but it's not doping. He's got testicular cancer. He comes through testicular cancer twice. And he's been a big part of Inter, not only this year, but over the last 4 years. He loves playing against the best strikers in the world. We saw that with Erling Haaland, remember, in Istanbul, but also earlier this season in the league phase, where they went to the Etihad and they got a clean sheet. Yeah, this Acerbi, I remember him saying, there's nothing that can scare him on a football pitch after everything that he's gone through.
What about profile of centre forwards? Because I can imagine him sort of sadistically relishing coming up against Erling Haaland.
Yeah.
Where does Dembele fit into that? It's a totally different profile.
It's very tricky, I think. One of the things I would like to maybe bring Jules in on is like the similarities between Barcelona's attack and PSG's attack in terms of you have these live wire, unpredictable dribblers who will take you in places you don't want to go. You know, with a centre forward, you usually have a reference point. They'll play up against you. With these guys, not so much. And I think that's the tricky thing that he has to confront tonight.
Yeah, and that's part of the key. If you remember the goal that PSG scored away at Liverpool, when Dembele dropped between Konate and Van Dijk, and neither of them went with him. He turned, the ball went to Barcola crossed, and then Dembele scored. If you think about the goal that Dembele scored at Arsenal at the Emirates in the semi-final first leg, he dropped into that midfield, found that little bit of space, turned, the ball went left, came back to him, Kvaratskhelia crossed the ball, Dembele scored 1-0 again. And I think this is the problem. One of the Inter centre-backs, whether that's Acerbi, Pavard, probably Bastoni, more likely Bastoni, will have to drop with Dembele. Otherwise, he will find, or it will have to be Mkhitaryan, whoever. But you cannot give Ousmane Dembele that time to control the ball, turn, and then you're in trouble.
Just watching the players now finish their warm-up. That was the cheer in the background. Jan Sommer has just jogged down the tunnel in front of us, away to the left. They are just waving, some of the PSG substitutes, at their fans who are directly in front of us, opposite us. I mean, you can't say a main stand, because the Allianz is this unbelievable, like, elliptical shape. From the outside, it sort of looks like a giant marshmallow, like a blimp has landed on the outskirts of Munich and just decided to stick around. Inside, it's lit up. There's red and white lights all around us. There's a big 5 Beckenbauer shirt as well, which is just imprinted above us on the roof of the Allianz Arena. Real picture, this stadium. Let's keep going with Inter, guys. Chris, we talked about Acerbi and Bastoni. Pavard's a big deal as well, isn't he? He was the question mark.
Yes, he was the question mark, but I think it would have been too big a risk if Simone Inzaghi, if he didn't feel he was 100% fit. I mean, there's competition in that back line, so it's one of those. If he's 100%, he has to have that trust in him. I think it's as simple as that. But as I say, you look at Inter's squad. They do have strength in depth. He does have that ability to make changes, but he must be confident. I think his last game, looking up, John may help me here because I often get things wrong, was it a month ago?
Missed the last 6.
Yeah, there you go. So it's a fair while ago, so there must be that element of trust, but also his importance to that back three then, James.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, Chris, watching how Simone Inzaghi has managed this team after the semi-finals, because they were in a title race which went down until the final day. But if you looked at the team selections that Inzaghi was putting out for the last 3 weeks of the season, I wouldn't say he had his mind on this game, but he was resting, rotating. He was trying to do his best to make sure that Pavard could recover and be at his best for this game. It's the same with Lautaro Martinez. Lautaro has been missing. He could have played last Friday against Como. Inzaghi preferred not to. This is your game. This is your night.
But has that cranked up the pressure on Inzaghi? I say cranked up the pressure, but the fact he made changes, they ended up losing out in that title race. What was said back in Italy about those changes? Was there anger about that, or is it fair enough if he wins tonight? The justification is in that.
Absolutely. I mean, the commentaria in Italy, let's say the 5 Lives of Italy, were very critical of Simone Inzaghi for essentially blowing the title race, which I felt was harsh.
We'd never have been that harsh, James.
Because Inter have tried to win every competition that they've entered this season. Napoli had only one competition to focus on. They got out of the Coppa Italia as quickly as they could, and they weren't in Europe. And so, in some respects, Napoli, they still won the title with the lowest points total since 2011. And the sense is that it's because Inter blew it, not because Napoli won it. I think that Antonio Conte, if he was here, he would give me the hairdryer treatment, if I said that. But that's certainly been the sense in Italy, that the match winners for Napoli were not only Scott McTominay, but the guys who scored the goals against Inter. Orsolini, Pedro for Lazio and Bologna. And so that's where the criticism is lying.
So the big question, James, is what happens to Inzaghi? Because when he sat down in front of us in the stadium yesterday, he said, didn't he, since the question's been asked, I will address it. And he is sitting down and having a conversation with the president later this week. So is he off, or does tonight, is it absolutely pivotal what happens tonight in terms of what happens to him next? And also, is this genuine and legitimate, this interest from Saudi Arabia?
Yes, there is an offer from Saudi Arabia, and it would make him the highest paid coach in the world. So, but I think at Simone Inzaghi's age, I don't think Saudi Arabia is right for him. I think he appreciates that. I think he would as he was saying yesterday, he's got such a connection with this group of players at Inter that he would find it very hard to walk away, even if they achieve fulfillment tonight in winning the only trophy that they haven't won.
Let's take you back to Roland Garros. Have we got a conclusion, Abigail?
Just as you come to me, unfortunately ends on a double fault, an overwhelming moment for Jacob Fernley, and it's Cameron Norrie on his 4th attempt in the 3rd round here at Roland Garros who comes through. There's a warm embrace at the net. These two Brits both went the college tennis route at Texas Christian University, and Fernley, who only graduated a year ago and has gone from outside top 500 to edge of top 50, he looked a little overawed at times with the chaos of the occasion in the French capital, excitement about the football. Norrie steady on the court, found all the marks to create a human wall. It is straight sets for Norrie, 6-3, 7-6, 6-2, and in the 4th round he could face the great Novak Djokovic, who leads by the first game against Filip Misalic out on court. Philippe Chatrier.
Abigail, thank you. The noise you can hear is a PSG party. Jules, as much as you can translate, what are they singing and how does that make you feel? I mean, the image is remarkable. Scarves up, bouncing up and down. The Allianz is alive.
I'm getting so emotional. I mean, this is my children's favorite channel as well. They're right opposite us there with my cousins and my best friend, and it's basically saying, I'm not going to sing because my voice, Paris SG, all together we will sing all the love we have for you that will never stop. After so many years of fight and struggle, oh Paris SG, we're gonna break our voice for you. Oh, 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 oh.
Jules,
sorry.
Has that song ever hit home for you like
Never.
tonight? I mean, the way I've not heard it before, but you might as well have been telling us a song that was written for this evening.
Incredible. I mean, this is, for me, going back 40 years when I first went to the Parc des Princes, when I was 4 years old with my dad. That song was already on then, and now for it to be sung here on the Champions League final with my children there, singing it at the same time, I promise you, like, my heart is just pumping so hard.
Jules, were you able to go to Lisbon? I mean, we weren't able to get so none of us were able to get there, so therefore it means all the more.
Absolutely, and that's why maybe I'm so stressed right now and so invested, because I've never experienced this before. Neither have those fans, and neither have my children or the rest of the family. So it's a very special night, and I guess if you win it, it's even more special. If you don't, then you'll cry your eyes out.
Just in the last sort of 30 seconds, so quickly. It was like the covers coming on at Wimbledon, but even faster. All of a sudden, a black and purple and white carpet has emerged inside the Allianz Arena and been rushed right across it. In the next 3 or 4 minutes, we'll be underway with what they call it, the kick-off show. So just for the sake of everybody's sanity, I'm going to tell you how that'll go. The brilliant Lincoln Park will walk out, and either we'll be able to hear ourselves think or we won't. If we can't, we'll play you Petr Cech. If we can, we'll wait a minute and then play you Petr Cech anyway, talking about the two goalkeepers. But the paraphernalia, John, is now on its way on. There are the drums.
Yeah, I think of those two options, I think we'll be hearing from Petr Cech.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
Crossy, to shut Jules up, they're playing the Inter anthem right now, which is C'è solo l'Inter. There's only Inter. No PSG, no Julien Laurent, only Inter at this moment in time.
And on that, James, the Inter fans, we can see some of them on the big screen. You know, there's a guy whose pictures come on the big screen who, you know, it's veins coming out of his head. All of the passion in there. You know, you can have won this cup before and still want it as much as somebody who has never won it. And there just feels so much 2010, a great manager linked with a move away, the last chance for a side. They will feel there's a bit of destiny here.
Yeah, although I put that to Matteo Darmian on Monday, he said, do not mention destiny. We're superstitious around here. You know, please don't talk about that. But I wonder what it's like, Crossy, because is it an advantage to have played in a final 2 years ago and to have come up close, to have already lived all these moments that are new for the PSG players? Or does it actually bring more pressure because you're like, well, we lost last time around. If we lose this time around, we're never coming back to this with this group of players who are, with an average age, the oldest team in the knockout stages.
Are Italians some of the most superstitious people in Europe?
They are very much so. I mean, they talk about this thing called
the thing with the shirts as well tonight.
Yes, I mean that was an in-joke between Lautaro and Barella yesterday, where they were asked why the yellow shirt, not the white shirt, and they kind of just looked at each other, laughed, and then didn't give us an answer. I mean, there was about forthcoming with an answer as Inzaghi was on his future.
Yeah, but the only match they've lost in the Champions League this season was wearing the white shirt.
Yes,
when they were beaten by Leverkusen. So
yep,
superstition.
No, I mean, scaramantico. That's you're superstitious in Italian.
Scaramantico.
You're straight. That's going on the commentator's view on BBC Sound.
And the other thing is gufando. Gufando means literally owling. Okay, a gufo is an owl. Okay, and what they will do is to be superstitious. If I were an Inter fan right now, I'd say PSG 3-0. PSG are going to walk this. Because you say the opposite of what you actually want to happen. That is gufando. That is being an owl.
And just now on the pitch in front of us, so there's loads of spotlights, there's a stage, there's a big drum kit set up. Lots of people have emerged who are sort of involved in the show here in big white sort of ponchos. I can tell they're involved in the show because if they weren't, they wouldn't need them. It's still baking hot. They sort of look like Rebel Alliance soldiers from Star Wars with the big kind of hats coming up over the top of their heads. They're all stood absolutely stock still, and Linkin Park are now on the stage. I think for many, many people listening probably of a certain age, I'm about to turn 40, they're a massive band from that era of the noughties. And it is how it goes these days with the Champions League final and the kick-off shows. Last year it was Lenny Kravitz. This year it's Linkin Park. So there's still this just huge carpet right across the pitch, over the centre circle, right towards the two goals. John?
Quite a radical choice, isn't it, Linkin Park for UEFA? Don't we think?
They've got cool.
I think, after the Barca-Inter semi-final, they want an encore. There you go. You don't know your Linkin Park, do you?
I all know my Linkin Park inside out, sir.
Yes, they were encore, though.
It's very good. Very good. Right, Linkin Park are on the stage now. The lights are absolutely beaming out as bright as anything. So, John, do you think should we hear from Petr Cech, maybe?
I think that might be a good idea.
Yeah, I think this is about the right time for it. All right, so we're talking goalkeepers as the fireworks start here inside the Allianz. Gigi Donnarumma for PSG, Jan Sommer for Inter. I've been getting a neutral opinion from Petr Cech, who won the Champions League here at the Allianz with Chelsea in 2012.
The reason why those two teams are in the final, particularly in both semi-final games, Jan Sommer against Barcelona and Gigi Donnarumma against Arsenal, you can clearly see that they helped their teams to go through because they made important saves, big saves in important times. Both teams will rely on their goalkeepers, of course, in the final.
Gigi and Jan are very different goalkeepers, aren't they? Gigi's got that real sort of big personality.
Yeah, of course, they are both different, but even Gigi, he's younger, but he has a lot of experience already playing for top clubs and playing for Italy, obviously winning the Euros, where he played big part in the tournament. Obviously, he has this experience already, so he can use that. He's a big goalkeeper. He manages to make, his presence count. And but Jan, I think I have to say, for a goalkeeper, a lot of people don't talk too much about. He's always there. It's been ever since he started playing European football with Switzerland and with Basel. He's been always a great performer. And then I think, especially the season with Inter, he plays one of his best football, and I think he will obviously be an important piece in a puzzle for Inter.
And I know this is a very English question to ask, but are you surprised we've not seen either of them in the Premier League?
Everybody has different pathways. Everybody has a different career. When you look at, for example, Donnarumma case, obviously in the moment, the top teams in England probably didn't need the goalkeeper to sign. And then he committed to Paris Saint-Germain, and obviously I don't think they will let him go just easily. So this is obviously a big difference as well.
Just to finish on Jan specifically then, do you think he's been a bit underrated?
Well, if you ask the Swiss national team people and players and everybody, you will know how valuable he was for all those years. If you ask people in Basel and Mönchengladbach, but he was a great performer. If you ask people at Inter, he will always tell you he's a great performer. So he's one of those goalkeepers who always deliver. Maybe you don't notice as much, but he always delivers.
That's Petr Cech, and we can check in at the French Open with Abigail Johnson.
Yeah, we're on the main stage here. It is actually impressively populated on Court Philippe Chatrier, given that we're in the French capital and there is the Champions League final coming up. But Novak Djokovic with a strong start 2-1 against the qualifier from Austria, Filip Misalic, whose career high ranking is world number 126. To put this in perspective, Misalic, who came through qualifying here, has never played in the main draw at the other 3 Grand Slams. So this is a huge task against the world number 6 of the present, Djokovic, who is on a 19-match winning streak on Parisian clay. Going to be keeping a close eye on this under the lights. Djokovic on serve.
Abigail, thank you very much. We're back here inside the Allianz Arena with 10 minutes to kick off. The Champions League final is on the way. Paris Saint-Germain and Inter Milan. I reckon we're about 2/3 through Lincoln Park. If it wasn't for the fact that we've got such a fascinating Champions League final on the way, I would hear the encore. They could do this song again.
Look, I just think if we have an encore of that Champions League semi-final from a few weeks ago between these two teams, I think they match up very similarly as well. PSG and Inter, as PSG, Inter and Barca did. Yeah, we'll settle for that.
Just before we let you go then, James, I do want to ask you one on Jan Sommer. Petr Cech there saying effectively he thinks he's underrated. Edwin van der Sar said the same thing to me. Rob Green said the same thing to all of us earlier.
I think you could say that sums up Inter. Sums up Lautaro, underrated. Sums up the team as a whole, sums up Sommer. I mean, 2 years ago, when Inter lost the final, yeah, Pep did that thing that Pep does where he says, oh, it was so hard. So hard because we couldn't press Inter. Why couldn't they press Inter? Because Onana was so good with the ball at his feet, so good at sweeping, playing over the press, that selling Onana, Man United fans and English football fans are like, what are you saying, Horncastle? This is crazy, Onana. But Jan Sommer had big gloves to fill, and he's done it. Set record clean sheets in his first season. And for a guy, we're talking with Rob Green earlier, he's only 6 foot. He's not big for a goalkeeper. And yet his presence, his ability to make himself look big in that goal. Yeah, he made such big saves in that semi-final against Barcelona. Everyone talks about the Lamine one, but the one in the stadium on Eric Garcia after Barcelona just started their comeback felt massive in the stadium.
Can I just ask James quickly? James, earlier you said you thought Inter would win. Tell us why you have that much belief that they will do so.
Because I think you can't kill this team. I think they showed that here at this stadium in the quarter-final when Thomas Muller came off the bench, scored an equaliser. Everyone thought, oh no, here we go again into Fratesi. 90th minute, scores the winner. We saw in that semi-final against Barcelona, they 2-0 up, 3-2 down in the 87th minute. People are filing out. Inter fans are leaving. Marco Materazzi, the legend in the VIP seats, he's leaving. But no, Acerbi goes up. He scores, Fratesi gets the winner again. It's a team that is very, very hard to put away. I'm sorry, Jules. I'm really sorry.
I agree with you completely.
Let me ask you one on Donnarumma then, James, because obviously he is right in the Venn diagram of you and Julien Laurent, isn't he? We were saying when he stood out there, it sort of reminds me a bit of Haaland in the sense that you do have to see him in person to realise just how big he is.
Yeah. If you're in a mixed zone with him, it's like being with an NBA player. You know, I mean, the only player I've had a similar experience with is Zlatan Ibrahimovic. You know, it's just towering over you. And, you know, there are goalkeepers, as you know, we spoke to Rob Green, who was talking about how great he is at getting down for his size. But I would say the thing that separates Gianluigi Donnarumma above everyone is his composure. His ability to stay cool. Yeah, that's why Sinisa Mihajlovic gave him his debut at 16 for AC Milan at San Siro. That's a very difficult place to play. And yet he took that all in his stride. And you know, there's been all these doubts about him. You know, I mean, big moments. You think of that Euros final at Wembley, home final for England, and he's the guy who is the hero of that night for the penalties that he saves. You know, I mean, for someone who's 26, he's played for a decade already. He's very, very experienced, but still a relatively young head.
James, lovely to have you on. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Great stuff. Pitchside, Javier Pastore and Javier Zanetti have just put the European Cup on its plinth. There is a violinist playing in the centre of the pitch at the minute. They've just pulled back a little bit of the purple and black carpet, and there sits the European Cup. Blue, red, shades of blue, Inter Milan, Paris Saint-Germain. Jules, I'll ask you about Donnarumma as well, but what are we witnessing away to our left-hand side?
Yeah, it's one of the tifos from the Paris Ultra. I mean, it only says Paris Saint-Germain, but they have all the bottom side of this stand, and at the top the crest of the club, and the obviously crest of the city Paris to here.
Looks absolutely fantastic. Right across the bottom tier, that word Paris, and then the club crest filling the whole of the second tier. Only the top, the gods of the stadium. You can't see it. So Donnarumma, Jules, have you stopped worrying about him in big finals? He just comes to the party.
He does. The only thing I would say, and he's been incredible in 2025, is that this Inter team is the team that has scored the most goals on set pieces this season in the Champions League, and that set pieces is a weakness for this PSG team, and this could be also one of the keys. We mentioned many keys, many matchups between players, tactically, the midfield, the experience, the youth, the weather, the heat, everything you want. Set pieces is another one, and let's see who deals with it better. Inter when they attack with them, PSG when they have to defend them. And I really think that it's a kind of finals as well that can be won or lost on a set piece.
It's still really hot, Jules, isn't it? PSG do a lot more running, 26k a game more than Inter Milan. Both teams really are going to go through it here.
Yeah, I think so. And let's see what Inter do. We talked before with Danny and Chris. Are they going to sit really deep? We don't think so. But they will have to hit PSG in transitions quickly. And that's tiring as well, because when you have the ball, if PSG have more of the ball and they move it, it's harder to run after it than to have it in your feet.
Jules, great stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
And listen, try and enjoy it.
I'll try.
All right. That's Julien Laurent here inside the Allianz Arena. We've got 4 minutes to kick off. In front of us, the crest of Paris Saint-Germain with the Eiffel Tower in red. Right in the centre is now being waved up and down. The crest of Internazionale away to the right-hand side. The Champions League emblem in the middle. The European Cup sits there, stock still. The players of PSG and Inter Milan walk out in front of it, and not one of them moves to touch it. I'm not sure any of them even looked at it. Full commentary then of the Champions League final. 5 Live, BBC Sounds, Paris Saint-Germain, Inter Milan, Chris Sutton and correspondent John Murray.
Well, thank you very much, Steve. Thank you very much, everyone, because the World Service are joining us here as well in Bavaria for the 2025 UEFA Champions League final, the 70th final in the history of this great competition. The flags are waving, the scarves are waving. PSG have their tifo in place in the stands. There is quite the atmosphere inside the Munich stadium. Big noise coming out of both ends of the 3 tiers of the home of Bayern Munich for this actually slightly offbeat Champions League final. Chris Sutton, I feel the fact that there is no Spanish involvement, no German involvement, no English involvement, and each of the last 20 finals have had one or both clubs from those 3 countries.
That does feel really odd. And am I right in saying it's the first time these 2 teams have
competitively?
Yeah, I mean, that's That's incredible.
First time these two managers have taken on each other competitively.
I mean, it is, you chuck all those things into the mix. It is incredible. This is interim PSG, two European giants as such, and then you put in both teams' routes to the final. PSG slow start, and they've finished the season so strongly, dispatched 3 English teams on the way to getting here. And then the wily old Inter, how much of that semi-final did that semi-final against Barcelona?
That changes things quite dramatically, I feel. If they'd had 2 1-0 wins against, I don't know, whoever it happened to be, but because they did that against that team, I think that changes the perspective completely. Anyway, I mean, the scene that we've got in front of us is a real feast for the senses, isn't it? And the tifo, the PSG tifo, which said in French, together we are unbeatable. That was the message that they put out across the middle of it, and now that's been tucked away. We've got the teams lining up for the start of the match. The 2 big decisions that were made by the coaches: Doué plays, and Barcola is only among the substitutes for Paris Saint-Germain. And for Inter, Pavard is fit. Important, big player, a winning player, a World Cup winner in 2018, and indeed Pavard, a Champions League winner against PSG back in 2020 when he was playing for Bayern Munich. So he's in the team. So the PSG side, other than that, as expected, Donnarumma, Hakimi, Marquinhos the captain, Pacho, Nuno Mendes, then that midfield of Vitinha, João Neves and Fabian Ruiz, and then up front Ousmane Dembele, the 33-goal top scorer, with Désiré Doué and Kavica Kvaratskhelia either side of him. And Inter in their yellow shirts, Jan Sommer in goal, Pavard, Acerbi and Bastoni, the 3 central defenders, Dumfries and DiMarco as the wing-backs, Çalhanoğlu, Barella and Mkhitaryan, who've hardly mentioned. Mkhitaryan at 36, starting the Champions League final, and then Marcus Thuram and the captain Lautaro Martinez up front. So here we go. The first Champions League final here in this great Bavarian city since Chelsea won it back in 2012. PSG kick-off, and Vitinha belts it downfield out for a throw-in.
It's incredible, isn't it? I mean, it's a bit like a rugby kick to touch.
What on earth was that?
I don't know whether I've seen that before. You expect something like that from maybe a Stoke City?
I was just going to say Neil Warnock might have come up with something like that, with all due respect, Chris. So Chris Sutton's with us for the commentary. World Service listeners are with us as well on 5 Live. Listeners, well, wherever you are tonight, BBC Sounds, if you're on the move, you'll find all of your radio networks there, your BBC radio networks. And PSG they are the home team tonight, so they're in the almost all navy blue kit with the red and white trim, that big stripe down the front of the blue shirts. And Dembele with the first touch, but it bounces back. Thuram is on the move. Thuram through the middle, but an important interception from Nuno Mendes. That was a little victory early on from the left back, and then on the halfway line, Hakimi, the other full-back for Paris Saint-Germain, keeps the ball against DiMarco.
And I think the truth is, John, we knew how PSG would start this game. They'll start on the front foot. I don't think anybody was quite sure about how Inter would start, but it looks like they'll pick their moments when to press high and then when to drop off.
There's a lot of talk yesterday when we were doing all of the talking about how PSG would cope with the front 2 of Inter, Martinez and Thuram. So that's definitely one to watch. And I mean, the 2 of them there together right now, they're less than 10 yards apart, the two front men.
And he plays that way, Simone Inzaghi likes the 2 up top, and it is of paramount importance that they do play close together, they don't get dragged apart. That becomes far more difficult for them.
So PSG 0, Inter 0. Paris Saint-Germain looking to create club history tonight by winning the Champions League and lifting that European Cup for the first time. Paris playing the ball forward towards the edge of the area. That's cut out. Here's little Barella, but he's given it away. Doué's onto this, the teenager, now to the edge of the area. Challenge came in on him. Doué works it across, but the clearance was there. And one of the Inter players has gone down, and I think might have fallen awkwardly as he tried to put in the challenge on the edge of the area. Çalhanoğlu, who I thought I saw him twist his foot. In fact, he's saying that he got a hand in the face from Doué. Yeah. But the referee, I should mention, Chris, Romanian referee tonight, Istvan Kovac, who tonight. You know, he's one of the most experienced, of course he is. He completes the set of the 3 European finals. He's ref the Conference League, he's ref the Europa League, now he's got the Champions League. Chris?
Yeah, just wondered there when Doué got in the half-turn whether he could have actually slid a ball through to Dembele. Took a touch or two and it eventually crowded out.
So free kick was given to Inter, who strike it away downfield, and it comes back to the halfway line. And Pavard gets his first touch, having missed the last 6 matches, back to Sommer. The Swiss goalkeeper got it on his left foot, but was put under pressure immediately by Dembele, and that's forced him to kick it straight out of play for a throw-in to PSG, halfway inside the Inter half. Inter themselves 3 times winners of this competition, but not since 2010 when Jose Mourinho's team won it. Diego Milito scored both goals. I saw so many Milito shirts today, trying to evoke that spirit. And of course, Inter losing in the final 2 years ago against Pep Guardiola and co in Istanbul. Here's Vitinha. PSG already dominating the possession. Inzaghi said that his team would be looking to get as much of the ball as possible, but this is the early pattern that we expected, as it's won back on the halfway line by Mkhitaryan, who is bundled over near the centre circle, and that is given as a free kick.
Yeah, really well organised there, Inter sitting deep, that back 5, and then when they do win the ball, they'll attack with pace. Mkhitaryan, be interesting to see how long he lasts at the ripe old age of 36.
Beautiful evening here, it's warm, dry. It has actually clouded over above the Allianz Arena as the ball is played through the middle to Martinez, but he couldn't get that pass right, hit it short, and Hakimi was able to give it to Marquinhos, who knocks it back. Marquinhos, if they're able to do it tonight, would mean so much to him. He played in the final in Lisbon as a midfielder, actually started that match, Marquinhos, against Hansi Flick's Bayern Munich. That was Thomas Tuchel's Paris Saint-Germain, if you remember. Sommer now with the ball on the edge of his box, long clearance downfield, but that drifts straight out of play for a throw-in to PSG. They've certainly got into their stride, Luis Enrique's team. A long throw. Here's Kvaratskhelia trying to get round the outside of Pavard, but he did his job, did it well, and then Inter win themselves a throw-in 10 yards inside their own half. The PSG fans to our left, that is the end that the French champions are defending in the first half, and they are doing their job. And at the other end, all of that blue and black, so much of it, with the odd white and yellow shirt spattered around in amongst it, but it is mainly the black and blue, il nerazzurri of Internazionale. Here is Marquinhos, 10 yards inside his own half, looks forward, sees Fabian Ruiz, European Championship winner with Spain now, attempting to become a European champion with his club. Fabian Ruiz straight onto this again, plays it down the left. Doué on the chase. Doué, who has got company there with him, and he's handed off the ball by Bastoni, and Doué was pushed off the pitch altogether, and it is given as a free kick, which was hotly disputed by Inter.
Yeah, Bastoni, I mean, it's little and large, isn't it? And I don't think Bastoni really wants to get drawn out in those wide areas up against Doué. I think Doué may have the beating of him. It's important they double up, and Doué, yeah, I mean, he's shoved, but it's one of those where I think Doué's made a bit of a meal of it. But an opportunity from a wide free kick now.
Remember, Inter have scored 11 of their 26 Champions League goals this season from set pieces. So here it is then defending a set piece as Vitinha strikes it in towards the back post. It's whipped right across everyone, taken down at the back post. Here's the cross in, off the head it bounces to Vitinha again at the back post. He chips it in there, a stretch from Marquinhos, who goes to ground, and off his head, bounces behind for a goal kick to Inter, and it remains 0-0.
I think Pavard does brilliantly. They're at the back post for Inter as they try and play their way out, or they play their way out successfully at the moment. PSG are not letting up with their press.
They are not. They are really putting Inter under pressure. But eventually they work it to DiMarco, but DiMarco gives it away, cheers French cheers. Vitinha now 30 yards out, takes it on a little further, puts his foot on the ball, then to the edge of the box, then it comes back to Fabian Ruiz out to the right hand side. Little João Neves is there, the Portuguese with the curly black hair, back in towards another Portuguese, Vitinha. They'll be here again on Wednesday night with Roberto Martinez, the Portuguese coach. They come here to play in the Nations League against Germany. Roberto Martinez is here this evening. Roy Hodgson as well, the former England manager, but the former Inter manager as part of the UEFA Technical Committee. We saw him on the pitch before the game. Vitinha still 15 yards inside Inter territory. Back to the right-hand side. They are putting some pressure on Inter here. Step over from Doué. Then it's delivered to Dembele on the edge of the area. Back to Vitinha. Vitinha thinks about the shot, but there are too many Inter players between him and the edge of the penalty area, so PSG go back to the edge of the back towards the halfway line. Nuno Mendes then out towards the right hand side. Fabian Ruiz in. Hakimi tries to cross it, but it's blocked by the defender DeMarco, who is able to turn, see the ball in front of him and whacks it away to the halfway line. But PSG back in possession again. That looked like a foul on Vitinha. Referee waves the advantage. Fabian Ruiz, more encouragement for the PSG supporters as the tall Spanish midfielder Fabian Ruiz is able to keep possession, just gliding in from the right-hand side. Now it's the Moroccan international, Hakimi, the former Inter man, had one season at Inter. Then infield, Vitinha, Nuno Mendes picks out the ball towards the edge of the box, and the shot from the angle from Doué, who popped up there towards the left corner of the box, is straight at Sommer, who's able to gather it into his yellow shirt.
Yeah, it's a good switch of play from PSG. You can play that way against a 3-5-2, quick switches of play, get a bit of dominance, overloads in those wide areas.
It's been intense, that pressure, hasn't it? And Inter just can't get out. Although here they are with Thuram, Martinez, Lautaro Martinez out to the right-hand side to Dumfries. Barella's ball across the penalty area is headed down at the back post safely by João Neves, who's kind of dropped in at right back while Hakimi is further forward. And then it's played back to Donnarumma, who might be getting his first touch, Chris.
The thing is with Inter, John, I don't think they care whether they suffer a little bit, as I think they actually quite enjoy suffering at times. As long as they get a favourable result, they'll hang on in there, they'll defend deep at times, they'll chuck the bodies on the line, they'll be resilient, but they'll have their moments in this game, I'm sure of that.
Yeah, and it's part of the fabric of Inter defending. Long has been, decades and decades, back to when they first won this competition back in the mid-60s under the great Helenio Herrera, who was very much part of the Italian Catenaccio brigade, the door-bolt defending. So that's where it came from. And here we are, 2024-25. What happened in the group stage? Inzaghi's Inter conceded one goal in the group stage. But here comes Dembele, cutting in from the right, and then the left foot shot was weak, and it was straight at goalkeeper Sommer, who was able to see it bounce up into his chest.
And that's your central striker, PSG, drifting out into that wide right area. I actually think it's a tame effort. Sommer gathers easily, but has a decent shooting opportunity for Dembele, in off that right-hand side, on his left foot.
That was given away by Mkhitaryan in the centre area, so PSG have got it again. 0-0 if you've just joined us, 5 live from the BBC and the World Service as well. Here is the excellent Kvaratskhelia on the left-hand side. Fabian Ruiz has popped up there, back to Vitinha, back into the box, Doué with a chance, squares it, there it is, in the middle, Hakimi makes it 1-0 Paris Saint-Germain. It's the right back, they love that, they love their goal-scoring right backs, and he's there on the edge of the 6-yard area to give PSG the lead in the 12th minute. Brilliantly worked, slick football, just exactly what we expect from Luis Enrique's Paris Saint-Germain. Total football.
Now what a start to the game from PSG. They thoroughly deserve it. They've been the dominant team, they've pushed into back, and they work it brilliantly. Clever little ball, and the half turn, and Hakimi all of 6 yards out. I think it's Doué on the drift, and it's a great pick. Left-hand side of the box, and he gets his head up. I wonder whether he thought about shooting. He didn't, he was unselfish. and picks out Hakimi, who's as free as a bird, 6-7 yards out, centre of the goal, and he just side-foots the ball in easily. What a start for PSG.
Paris Saint-Germain 1, Inter 0. A storming start from the French champions, and they've got the early goal that they were looking for. And it is remarkable, isn't it, how these fullbacks, whether it's Nuno Mendes on one side, we've not really seen him come forward, or whether it's Hakimi as it is in this case. That's his 9th goal of the season. You know, he's provided the assists for so many as well. And Hakimi, who scored in the French Cup final last weekend to effectively clinch it, scored in the second leg against Arsenal, scored against Aston Villa, and now he's scored in the Champions League final.
Yeah, right back in name only, really, is it? You know, plays all up that right-hand side, doesn't he? Right back, right winger, inside right, took up a brilliant position in the box. He was unmarked, but also the way in this opening period that PSG have interchanged and players on the drift. Doué a couple of times just drifted over to that left-hand side, very hard to mark, and that was the key. He was found free and just squared to Hakimi, one up, and Inter. Talked about Inter's experience. They're going to have to use every ounce of it to get back in this game, because they are a team who are being dominated, cannot get up the pitch.
And how tough is that for the Inter supporters? At that end, one of their own played for Inter for one season, won the league under Conte, and there he was on the edge. As you said, Chris, free as a bird, and it is the year of the bird, as we keep being told, to pop it in on the edge of the box. And I mean, they had their pockets picked, if I can spit it out there, by PSG, as you say, inside left, outside right. They didn't know where he was. He was free as can be and popped it in the net.
Yep. And it has been a feature of PSG. The longer the season has gone on, the confidence has been there in forward areas. Well, not just in forward areas, all over the pitch. And they just back themselves. They think their build-up play is going to be better than the opposition's. And in every area, they have great strength. And the talk before the game about Doué, John, would he start?
And how effective has he been? And he set up the goal. Vitinha's pass was the scalpel's touch, wasn't it, from Vitinha on the edge of the area, who played it through perfectly for Doué, who just squared it for Hakimi. So PSG 1, Inter 0. They didn't score in the final back in 2020. They were beaten by one of their own, if you remember then. Kingsley Coman, the Paris boy who scored the winner for Bayern Munich. But here it's different, and it is Luis Enrique's team who are in front as he attempts to win it for the second time as a coach after his Barcelona days 10 years ago. But he's built this team, even though this is still only his second season. This PSG team has got the thumbprint of Luis Enrique all over it, and part of that is doing exactly what they've done in the opening 15 minutes of this match. But Inter now having to respond. They've barely been behind in the Champions League this season. I think in total it's something like 17 minutes before tonight that Inter have been behind in this whole competition.
Yeah, that is incredible. And in this opening 16 minutes, Inter haven't been able to get up the pitch. We talked about the importance of the centre forwards linking up there for the first time. Long ball into Ram, and Martinez drawing the foul. It's really important they do that.
Thuram now forcing it forward. Dumfries on the chase. William Pacho is back there. Kvaratskhelia is back there as well, and that is typical of the work that Kvaratskhelia does. You know, is effectively an auxiliary defender there as Inter broke forward, and now it's all the way back with Sommer at the other end, who had to be quick there under pressure from Dembele. But he just got a toe to it to give it to DiMarco, but DiMarco, that forces the error. And now Nuno Mendes, here's Kvaratskhelia, right foot shot, but he's blazed that, got right underneath it and blazed it high and across the face of goal and beyond the far top corner and into the Inter fans. 1-0 PSG lead.
Yeah, and so dominant, and Kvaratskhelia, you expect better from him. Coming inside on that right foot, is always going to try and come in on that right foot and get a shot off. Pavard backed off, but the shot was high and wide. But it is total dominance, John, his opening stages.
So 1-0 to PSG. 5 Live from the BBC. Inter coming forward, but Marquinhos was there to force it forward, and the play will be stopped because Nuno Mendes has gone down holding the left side of his head, so they will have a look at him. So what a start we've had then. It's a start that matched the build-up, actually. All action, wham, bam, and that goal beautifully worked by Vitinha and Doué, and then finished off by Hakimi. So we've got a choice of listening for you right now on the brand new Sports Extra 2. You will hear the T20 Blast, Sports Extra 3, the Super League Catalans against Hull will either have just finished or it'll be coming to an end. We'll get you a scoreline on that in due course. But brand new BBC Sounds, that's where you find them. At the top of the dial on BBC Sounds, Sports Extra 2 and 3, which means that we can bring you more and more and more live sport as the play is back underway, and Nuno Mendes just keeping an eye on him, having received that bang on the head. Seems okay, back up on his feet, and I think probably everybody needed a breather after the start to this match, and smoke billowing out, as it seems every area. I mean, it's all coming from the left. That's where the PSG flares have been, and those smoke sticks, but all is quiet now. All of the red has disappeared, but I mean, it's hanging around. It's like a mist. It's like a London Peace Super. Catalans 0, Hull FC 34 is the final score. And we'll keep you up to date as well with Novak Djokovic, who's playing right now at the French Open and was up early in that match. Throw in level with the edge of the penalty area. Dumfries to take this, a long loopy throw that's headed on by Thuram, headed across the box by William Pacho, and it was kept in over there on the far side, but Kvaratskhelia is away with it, and the Georgian passes it forward to Dembele. Fabian Ruiz is through the middle, still going with it, Dembele. João Neves arriving, all the way across to the right, Doué with a shot deflected in! Pass Sommer, it's 2-0! PSG are off like a shot in this Champions League final. Luis Enrique and his coaches all celebrate. Nothing Sommer can do about that. First Hakimi, now the teenager Doué. What a choice that is from Luis Enrique. He set one up and he scored the other. The 19-year-old. PSG 2, Inter 0.
Yeah, the right pick. Of course it was the right pick. And it's from one end to the other. Inter, actually with the long throw, looked like it was going to go out for a corner. I think it's Pacho who keeps the ball in, and then they break. Kvaratskhelia feeds the ball in the left-hand channel. And Dembele does brilliantly. Quick switch of play to Doué, right-hand side of the box, takes the ball down, off his chest, one bounce, and bang! And it's the deflection which does for Sommer, who goes down to his right-hand side, and the ball creeps past him. He chokes it into the floor. It's off DeMarco, actually, the deflection. And PSG are blowing Inter away. Inter can't get a foothold in this game. We talk about them being resilient, blimey, they're going to have to be now. They're going to have to dig in and try and find a way back in this game. But it's impossible to see at this moment in time. They have been absolutely smothered, blown away.
Yeah, and now the flares are out again. 3, 4, 6, 8 of them, more being lit all of the time. I suspect somebody is making some sort of vain announcement to suggest that maybe they put them out. I'm not sure how successful that's going to be, as Hakimi plays the ball high across his own penalty area. Donnarumma tried to kick it away, got that all wrong, and now Inter with Dumfries with the cross that comes off Nuno Mendes and deflects behind for the first corner of the match. It's gone to Inter. More importantly, 2 goals have gone to PSG, but a corner to Inter.
Yeah, and Julien Laurent talking before the game about his worry, this PSG team from set plays.
Yep, so let's see how PSG deal with it. Here comes the corner, which is headed up and over from the edge of the 6-yard box. I think it was Acerbi. It was Acerbi who got there, the grizzled Acerbi with his scraggy beard. Got higher than anyone else but couldn't keep the ball down. Not this time, Acerbi.
He just couldn't get up high enough. It's 7 yards out, centre of the goal. Couldn't get over the ball and nod it down, and Donnarumma grateful that crept over the bar.
Paris Saint-Germain 2, Inter 0. Goal kick to the French champions, winning it again this season for a record-extending 13th time. As the ball runs back into the Inter penalty area. Inter, who were pipped by Antonio Conte and Napoli and Scott McTominay and Billy Gilmore. And here they are trying to salvage something from this regular season, if you want to call it that, before both of these teams go off next month to America to the newly expanded FIFA Club World Cup. But they were beaten in the semi-finals, Inter, of the Coppa Italia. They lost in the final of the Italian Super Cup as well, which was played in Saudi Arabia. And here they are now, having reached the final of the Champions League, 2-0 down. I suppose the only thing you'd say for them, Chris, is that there is actually still plenty of time to respond, but against this PSG team in the mood that they're in.
And you can't see PSG not creating more opportunities with the firepower that they have, but they haven't got any sort of foothold in this game. They've had absolutely no control. It's just one-way traffic, isn't it?
I thought it was interesting yesterday, and I wasn't quite sure how this was going to work, as the man who opened the scoring, Hakimi, brings it forward and he gives it to the man who scored the second, Doué. He is absolutely loving this. The 19-year-old on the stage like this, dragging his foot over the ball, dragging it back, taking on players. Probably watched Lamine Yamal in the semi-final, saw what he did against Inter and thought, I fancy a bit of that. And here he is doing it. Doué doing it. Vitinha back to the centre circle to João Neves, who plays it back to William Pacho. So things looking good. Excellent start for Luis Enrique and Paris Saint-Germain. Long pass forward, but Sommer's got that. And Simone Inzaghi has got a lot of thinking to do. What he doesn't want is for this to get any worse. He's standing there almost doing that in front of our eyes with his hand on his chin. Yeah. Very thoughtful in his smart, slim-fitting black suit. Vitinha carrying it on through the middle. Now here is Dembele. He's not got in on the act just yet. That's a worry as well. Hakimi back to Dembele. Just one goal in his last 8 appearances, mind you, which to me means he's due one.
Yeah, that's why I look at it as well. And PSG have been so much in control and dominant. The thing is, the way that PSG set up when Inter have the ball, they're happy to leave their centre-halves 2v2. Pacho and Marquinhos with Lautaro Martinez and Thuram. They say, we can deal with those two. Push Hakimi in high on DeMarco. And the other side, Mendes high and on Denzel Dumfries. And just say, well, you know, we back ourselves to press you in our own half. You'll build up play. You can't play through us.
No, and they can't get the ball off them. PSG dominating the football. Out it comes to Hakimi again on the right-hand side, up against DeMarco, the unfortunate DeMarco. Then Fabian Ruiz tries a shot from the edge of the area, but we were right behind that, as Jimmy Armfield used to say, and it was easily gobbled up in inverted terms, not literally, by Sommer.
Yep, an easy gather. It was a bit of a lazy attempt from Ruiz. There we go, there's that ball forward.
Up to Thuram, big Thuram on the halfway line, holds it up against William Pacho, the Ecuadorian. I don't know about you, in Munich over the course of the last day or so, I've seen so many Ecuador flags. Feels like the whole Pacho family must be here. Dumfries now for Inter on the right. In it comes. Oh, Martinez thought about the overhead kick there. It was just over him. He was setting himself for it and then realised he couldn't do it.
No, just for a second, it looked like it was within reach, but I think Vitinha got back and smelt the danger, cleared the danger.
Yeah, for older listeners, it was a bit like that feeling when you're trying to get up and you think, Can I get up out of this? No, I'm not going to be able to get up out of the seat here. So if you can picture that. For younger listeners, one day that'll come to you. Novak Djokovic has won the first set against the qualifier Filip Misolic at the French Open. So Djokovic is one set up, and if Djokovic wins that, he will play Cameron Norrie in the fourth round after his win against Britain's Jacob Fernley. Jack Draper won earlier. Stacks of coverage and commentary again tomorrow that you'll hear from us at BBC Radio, as Hakimi is dispossessed. Now then Inter. Barella plays it through for DiMarco. Looked as though he was offside, and eventually the flag does come, even though Hakimi was able to recover in any case and put the tackle in on DiMarco.
Yeah, do you know, I just wondered for a second whether Barella could have had a shot there. Donnarumma out of his goal in that right back position for PSG, and careless play from Hakimi. Just for a moment, Barella, I thought he could have taken a touch and had a shot. He didn't, elected to pass to DiMarco, who had drifted offside. There's been very little combination play, though, from Inter in the final third.
Haven't had the ball.
That's why there's been very little combination play, John.
PSG 2-0 up. This is the fifth final out of the now 70 finals in this competition that has been hosted here in Munich. And if you haven't heard, what is a remarkable fact is that all of the finals, the previous four finals, have featured first-time winners. And what have we got here? The potential of a first-time winner with PSG 2-0 up. PSG lost here this season in the league phase against Bayern Munich when Dembele was sent off, and actually it was this referee, Istvan Kovac, who sent him off in that match.
Straight red?
Two yellows. One for dissent and one for a tackle that was disputed on Alphonso Davies. Inter coming forward. They won here against Bayern Munich. This is better. Ball down the right. Pulled back. Martinez, though. That was cut out. Comes back across the PSG area, and Vitinha is able to head it down and head it away. And it's out for a throw.
Yeah, on a couple of occasions, Vitinha has been really well positioned when the ball has gone into the PSG box. There's a good run from Pavard initially to release him, and maybe took the wrong option, but credit to Vitinha.
Ball's out of play for a throw-in to PSG. So Paris Saint-Germain leading through the goals from Hakimi and Doué in the 12th and 20th minutes, which means they are in pole position here. They become the 24th club, the 24th different club to win this competition. And a couple of those first-time winners in Munich, Nottingham Forest in the old Olympic Stadium, and Chelsea. Last time it was staged here in 2012. PSG pouring forward. Hakimi again. Doué together. Doué again infield. Look at that confidence, Chris. Outside of his boot to Dembele. Dembele into the box, but the cross is deflected wide of the near post. Corner to PSG.
Yeah, it's wonderful from Doué, chopping in on that right-hand side, outside of the boot, right-footed pass to Dembele, who once again is not playing as a conventional striker, on the move to the left-hand side of the box, and eventually gets a shot off. That's blocked.
So somewhere through all of that fine mist to our right, Nuno Mendes, another of the PSG Portuguese contingent, is going to take this corner and outswing it towards the penalty spot. Oh, the top of Marquinhos. I thought it might have been pushed over by Acerbi. It's dinked back into the back post, but that's over everyone and through. And Marquinhos is saying to referee Kovac, how about that for a push on me?
Yeah, I mean, I had my eye on that, and I mean, there's the tiniest little touch from Acerbi, but Marquinhos is better than that, John.
Yes, he is. You played against Inter, didn't you? Against those rugged Inter defenders.
Well, Bergamy.
Bergamy.
Yeah, Bergamy.
One of the best.
Back in the
Did he give you a little? Did he give you a little nudge?
He was very sort of cagey at blocking, I should say. Yes.
Give your ribs a tickle, did he?
More than a tickle, John.
Did he?
I think he was famous for being slightly rough.
He was. I think that understates it nicely. PSG with the ball inside their own half, a sweltering night here. That's the other thing as well, you know, they are an ageing team, as we have said over and over and over again, and an ageing team without the ball, having to chase and chase. That is not ideal. And in fact, to underline this, Inzaghi has taken off his jacket. So he is in his white shirt sleeves, thin black tie, hanging down just like his lank black hair. Pacho, edge of the area, left-footed to the edge of the area, but that is cut out there by Çalhanoğlu. And then it's worked away by PSG. Here they come again, over the halfway line, back to João Neves. The PSG supporters groan, they just want them to go forward, forward and forward. But they are now. Dembele on the right-hand side, back to little Vitinha. Vitinha again, Dembele into the penalty area, goes for the shot come cross, which hits the shins of DeMarco and bounces behind for a PSG corner from the right this time.
I mean, they just interchange so well, don't they? Dembele on the drift, on the left, on the right this time. Always trying to shift the ball on the inside and fire shots off. They just look so much slicker, so much in control. PSG in every area.
They do. They are dominating it with just over 10 minutes to go to half-time. This Champions League final, 5 Live from the BBC. Listening as well on the World Service, wherever you are, on what is a late Saturday evening now here in the south of Germany. Nuno Mendes with this latest corner to the back post. Marquinhos was after it, and it was deflected onto him, actually, by a chair beat and behind for a goal kick. So Doué, what a night he's had so far, the 19-year-old. He's 20 on Tuesday as well, so his birthday just a couple of days away. He scored the goal that clinched the title for PSG this season, and if you remember, this is his 4th goal in the Champions League. Scored a vital goal against Aston Villa in the first leg, the equaliser, when Rodgers had given Villa the lead in the Parc des Princes. As Inter come forward, Mkhitaryan, his ball across the area, flicked away by the heels of Pacho, which took it away from Thuram, and it's out for a throw-in to PSG, 10 yards away from their own corner flag. Producer Gary just points me to this, and that is that with that goal, Désiré Doué has become the 3rd teenager to score in a Champions League final.
Was Patrick Kluivert, was
he was one of them, yeah. Do you know the other one?
Was it Carlos Alberto?
It was. Honestly, Chris, you are on fire tonight. Carlos Alberto for who was it again? Who was he playing for?
I cheated, John. I did say on Gary's screen there.
It was for Porto against Monaco.
I did say, John, on BBC on 5 Live this morning to Ellie that Doué would be the key man this evening.
Wow.
Say, John.
I think they should get you on again in the morning then and talk about it. Here is Marquinhos, long pass downfield from him, but Sommer's able to come and get it. Well, this has been torrid for Inter this first half in a season. Well, it's been a nearly season for them. And this, even though there is a long way to go, there's over half of the match to go, 10 minutes to go to half-time. It is, it's a tall order already for them. But Martinez and Thuram together. Dumfries makes the run, but Thuram goes back and goes in the other direction. So now Dumfries is there on the edge of the penalty area. Now the yellow shirts, these goldy yellow shirts with that sort of bluish mottled effect on the sides. Ball on the right-hand side. Whipped across to the near post, but Pacho is there in front of Thuram just to see it behind for a corner.
But it only takes a goal, doesn't it, from Inter? 2-0. Everybody talks about the next goal. That's all it will take for PSG to get nervous.
Yes, exactly. And after being involved in that semi-final, then anything's possible. Inter with the corner. Here it is, curling to the back post. Headed all wide by Thuram. He got up so well at the back post. He headed it wide of the post instead of inside the post. And I have to say, for a split second there, I thought that's in.
Yep, same. We are right behind this. He sees it all the way. Thuram gets up brilliantly. It's a poor header. He's 6 yards out, nearly level with the far post. I think he's trying to be too accurate there. Always think in those situations, go back across the goalkeeper into the far corner. tries to beat Donnarumma at his near post, and it's a yard wide. That's their biggest opportunity, and you sort of feel, John, they have to take them.
Yeah. PSG still 2-0 up. That's Chris Sutton, Premier League winner, Champions League player, Champions League goal scorer against some of the big clubs, and indeed played in a European final. Well, it's been Paris Saint-Germain's final so far, this one. Attempting, as I say, to become the 24th different club to win it. 6 English clubs have won it. Celtic, of course, the first British club to win this competition back in 1967. But Marseille, the great rivals of PSG, the only French club thus far to have lifted the famous trophy. It's a goal kick for PSG as half-time approaches. Donnarumma waiting to take this, the former AC Milan goalkeeper. That's where he cut his teeth, Donnarumma. I was watching him last night. They actually played a match without any goalkeepers, and Donnarumma was playing as an outfielder, and I have to say, Chris, he looked like an absolute liability. As Vitinha passes the ball out of play for a throw into Inter on the halfway line. Inter just with a little sniff here. Tiniest aroma.
Yeah, when you started that Donnarumma outfielder conversation there, I thought it was going to end like that.
Did he not? As it bounces through for Donnarumma, who's able to... Marquinhos left it, and Donnarumma was very quickly out, as we know he can do, and he got the ball very safely. In all honesty, Chris, I thought Donnarumma in that match last night was going to take out at least a couple of PSG players out of the final. As the ball is played to the edge of the area. Thuram with a flick. Martinez tries to get there, but Marquinhos very coolly steps across. There's a little exchange between Marquinhos and Donnarumma, which was quite firm. And they come again. Inter with Bastoni, the defender of the year in the Italian top flight this season. Bastoni. Now Dumfries on the right-hand side, ball in, cleared by Marquinhos. Barella with a heavy touch. Marquinhos then on the challenge, but the Italian international Barella is able to hold it. Dumfries for the cross. Pacho wasn't quite sure in the end, half-volleyed it away, and Kvaratskhelia is able to take it down and pass it back into the PSG defensive third. First real period of the match where PSG have been under any sort of what you would describe as being sustained pressure, and they're back in possession now, just as they like it. Little Vitinha, the former Wolves midfielder, don't forget, plays it via Dembele. Kvaratskhelia on the move now with his socks down, back to Dembele, 20 yards out. Dembele clips it across the penalty area. Doué, who's been quiet actually the last 20 minutes or so, but we can give him that after his opening 20 minutes when he created one goal and scored the other. 2-0 it is to Luis Enrique's Paris Saint-Germain. Fabian Ruiz now with the ball, and it's flicked back towards the halfway line, and here is Vitinha again. Absolutely loves the ball at his feet. Gets it back now from Dembele in a deep lying position. Kvaratskhelia is in a central area. Then João Neves playing as the deeper of the three, really, over the course of the match so far, the little number 87. Then he gets it back, João Neves, Fabian Ruiz, passing the ball between the two of them. It's almost like watching a training exercise. Now Marquinhos with the thick, curly hair. He brings it forward to the right flank, Hakimi, and then PSG go back towards the halfway line, and it's snuffed out, that pressure, although Marquinhos has overhit a ball away beyond Dembele and out for a throw-in. But that's all it's done there. The PSG, that little bit of pressure that Inter had, PSG get the ball back and just keep it.
It's not sustained, and that's because Inter, they're not capable of keeping the ball for long periods because of PSG. They're more mobile, more athletic, the press is better. There we see Hakimi right up, Sommer clips the ball out left-footed, right up on DiMarco, the left wing-back for Inter, not letting him get this head up. We've barely seen him in this game, DiMarco. It's such an important player. We talk about the Inter wing-backs, and what a great season both of them have had, but tonight they've barely had a kick.
Yeah. Here is Nuno Mendes, heads it forward towards the the halfway line. I mean, it was quite a contrast last night. I mentioned the PSG approach, very relaxed, with Donnarumma doing, what he was doing, as Inter are claiming that this throw-in should have gone their way, or possibly a handball actually there. Inter were absolutely on it. Their approach in their training session last night, we were able to watch all of it. I mean, Inzaghi was acting like it was a proper match. He was like he normally is on the touchline. It was very, very intense. But different approaches. You do what you think is right, don't you?
Absolutely. In the end, all that matters is
what happens here.
Yep.
And here is Kvaratskhelia. Kvaratskhelia now, little ball in, and then back to the halfway line. Kvaratskhelia, who's already he's got 2 championship winners' medals this season, because he obviously got one for Napoli now. So Napoli and PSG. Ball down the left-hand side, and they come again with Doué. PSG into the box, whipped across at the back post, and it's driven. Now, did that actually come off the frame of the goal? The attempt at the back post from Dembele. It's been kept in play on the far side. They come again. PSG, edge of the box. Dembele was the man at the far post who was stretching for the contact on that. What happened to it?
I hope for his sake it did come off the frame of the goal, because that would have been it was a bad enough miss anyway. It was Doué once again out on that left-hand side, causing carnage with the cross to the back post. Dembele just ghosted in. He must have been 2 yards out.
Back post, arriving back post. There was a defender there as well. However, the ball pinged away out to the far side, and I can only assume it's come off the angle post and barrows or some such. So it could easily have been 3-0. Inter with Martinez. Another goal there, and I have to be honest, you'd have to say that would have, with the way that the match has gone, it would have been incredibly difficult to think that Inter could come back from that in a final in the Champions League.
And
has happened before, of course.
That would have been curtains. I don't know what curtains is in Italian, but that's Hakimi, the PSG right back, pressing high. I think it's Pavard and Chanalolu in the right back position, the opposite side of the pitch for PSG.
You need Alistair Bruce Ball with you, Chris, to know what curtains is in Italian. It's very good, isn't he, with his Italian? Apparently it is Kende, or some such.
He had a year at Polytechnic over there, I think, didn't he?
He studied films, I think, didn't he, in Italy? Here, Nuno Mendes cuts this ball out on the halfway line, plays it forward to Doué. Doué's got Fabian Ruiz. Doué's still going, drifts on, shoots low. Sommer goes down to his left, but knew it was rolling wide. That would have absolutely put the seal on it if he'd been able to bury that one.
Yeah, and do you know what? He just drifts past. I think it's Mkhitaryan with the step over. Took the wrong option there. I think he had Neves out to his left-hand side, but there's a tame shot from shooting position.
Although it put me in mind, actually, of the Tommy Watson finish for Sunderland in the playoff final. That sort of passed it into the net.
Is it not once off Sunderland now? Is he not off?
He is actually, isn't he? Yes, because the season is over for Sunderland. Next we see them, we'll be in the Premier League. We'll be commentating on them, won't we, next season, Sunderland? More Premier League commentaries, even more Premier League commentaries, if you can believe that, than ever before on 5 Live, Sports Extra 2, Sports Extra 3 next season. So join us for that. But this is Paris Saint-Germain in control, in charge of the Champions League final in 2 minutes of added time at the end of the first half, and could easily there in the latter stages have increased their lead. But as it is, the goals from Hakimi and Doué have built a platform for Luis Enrique's team from which they are now strong favourites to lift the trophy. And here comes Kvaratskhelia into the penalty area now. Italian defenders backpedaling, left foot, shoots across goal, and it's deflected, and it bounced rather awkwardly there. Sommer was on his heels as he staggered across the goal line, and if it had taken a left turn there, it might have ended up in the back of the net.
Oh yes, I think it's 1.5 yards wide of the far post for Kvaratskhelia, chopping inside on his right foot, chopping again on the outside left and getting the shot off. I think it comes off from Fritz's right heel. and drifts past to that far post.
Excellent service from the staff in the media area here, tapping us on the shoulder, asking if we want more water. Here is the corner, and Kvaratskhelia heads it over from 8 yards, 9 yards out. Curled onto his head by Dembele, took the corner, and Kvaratskhelia couldn't keep it down. There's the half-time whistle, and listen to that cheer from all of those Paris Saint-Germain supporters who are all on their feet, many of them with their shirts off, hands above their heads, clapping and saying what a half that was. First 45 minutes of a Champions League final. Paris Saint-Germain, they're halfway there to their first title in this competition.
Yeah, but who needs Mbappe when you've got Doué? There was that call before the game. Would it be Doué? Would it be Barcola? Luis Enrique got the right call, didn't he? And Doué, brilliant for the first goal, just drifted into the left-hand side of the box, turned. Most 19-year-olds in that situation, their eyes would have lit up and they would have tried to shoot. He didn't, composed himself, found Hakimi, who stroked the ball in, and then got the second goal. But this, John, has been an absolute mauling this first half. I think sitting here now, how are Inter going to get back into this game? Maybe there'll be changes at half-time, but at this moment in time, it looks like Champions League is going to Paris.
Yeah, and what a half for the 19-year-old. His last match as a 19-year-old before he leaves his teenage years. What a season he's had in the Champions League. I mentioned the goal that Doué scored against Aston Villa, that equaliser, the fact that he scored the goal that clinched the league for them. Remember, he was the one that scored the clinching penalty in the shootout at Anfield as well. So another chapter being written by Désiré Doué, setting up one goal for Hakimi, scoring the other himself. They could have had more at the end of the half. As it is, here in Munich, Paris Saint-Germain 2, Inter 0 at half-time. And inside the stadium with us, Steve Crossman sits to my left with a healthy glow about him.
Oh, thanks very much. Not as healthy as the glow of the man immediately to my right, Julien Laurent. How are we doing?
Not sure about the glow, but certainly the heart is a bit better now. At half-time, 2-0 up. Although we've been in football far too long to think that this is over and that Inter are not going to come back better. They can't be like that in the second half. They can't be like that. Chris Sutton, Christopher, even you know that they can't be that bad again in that second half. They will have to change something. They will have to go for it. They will have to do something else. But I've loved this first half from PSG. And again, there's nothing that PSG have done so far that we didn't know they were going to do or capable of doing, in how they move the ball so well, all that fluidity in that midfield within the structure, then the technical ability of Doué and Kvaratskhelia and Dembele. The pressing and counter-pressing has been exceptional tonight, really.
And that's what I like. The first half has come down to. Inter, you know, they've tried to beat the PSG press. You know, their philosophy will be, you know, can we beat that press? We should be able to. PSG have just absolutely smothered them. They've pressed them high. They've won the ball high up the pitch. When Inter have gone long, Marquinhos and Pacho at the back have controlled the front two. They've been too physical for them. So it's how on earth are Inter? Maybe it'll be through a substitution. Maybe it'll be through, you know, a moment, a set play, the two front players linking up. But this has been so one-sided, it surprised me.
Inside the Allianz Arena now, there are just little laser lights all around the roof, all different shades. We've just seen pictures outside the stadium. The whole of the Allianz Arena, and I mean the whole of it, is now lit up in the various colours, the shades of blue. Inter Milan, Paris Saint-Germain, sort of starting to feel like you could just drop all the other colours and have it as blue and red. James Horncastle is back with us as well. What does Simone Inzaghi do now, James? What can he do now?
He has to say, you've got nothing to lose, lads. You know, you've got to play for pride here. We have seen Champions League finals where teams have been further behind at this stage and they've come back, you know, in Istanbul. But what surprised me really about Inter, I mean, Chris was touching upon it there about the counter-pressing and how PSG have smothered them. I mean, Inzaghi said yesterday, yeah, we want the ball. We do not want PSG to have the ball, because if they have it, we're in trouble, particularly with those dribblers that they've got. And I think what surprised me is that some of the players just haven't done their jobs, I think, as they would have liked. I mean, Federico Di Marco, the hometown kid, always supported Inter, used to be in the Inter end when he wasn't a player, been at the club since he's 6 years old. You've seen him get pulled every which way, and that, particularly, I mean, on that first goal, what is he doing leaving Hakimi there? What is he doing? You know, I mean, he goes to shut down a shot from Doué, which turns into an assist for a completely free Achraf Hakimi. So, you know, I mean, I think it's very curious to see Inzaghi look at this team that has only been behind for 16 minutes in the Champions League going into this game, find itself behind, find itself 2 goals down. It's not a position that Inter are used to being in.
You know, Jules, the one thing I can find for Inter here is that, OK, they're 2-0 down. I'm not sure PSG actually look that good at the back. I feel like Inter have managed to find the space a few times. Every time they've come forward, it's not like one of those finals where a team has got 2-0 and they just look like they're going to be able to shut down at the back. The problem is you feel like they're probably going to score again as well.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, this is not a team that defends anyway. This is a team that very much attacks, thinks about possession all the time and going forward, either building up, as we saw in the first goal, because I didn't count exactly the amount of passes until Vitinha finds Doué, who then finds Hakimi, or in quick transitions like the second goal, because Inter attacking, Pacho gets the ball, then Kvaratskhelia to Dembele to Doué, and yeah, they get a bit lucky with the deflection on the Doué shot, but still, they can hit you on so many different ways. But yeah, defensively, they're not as strong, I guess, than going forwards. But I still think that despite a few good crosses from Dumfries, that could have fallen to Lautaro or to Thuram, and obviously the Thuram header on the corner. And we've said before, set piece is big tonight. And the Acerbi one as well, but the Thuram one is even a bigger chance than the Acerbi header on the other corner. I thought PSG did pretty well even defensively.
Zero shots on target.
Yeah, okay.
For Inter. So I just think that, you know, the PSG, their 2 centre-halves feel they can deal with the 2 into front plays. It's set places, as Jules said, where they've had the chances. Thuram should have scored. Acerbi maybe just didn't time his jump properly. Thuram had that opportunity. And it's all about the next goal. That's the truth of it. The next goal, we know what's going to happen.
James, what was that Italian word for superstitious again?
Scaramantico.
Scaramantico.
Yeah, so what I was doing when I was goofando, wasn't I? I was, being superstitious. So when I said that Inter would win, I was doing actually Jules a favour by saying something that wasn't going to happen.
You said PSG would win 3-0. You're on course for your prediction.
I presume now, because you're Scaramantico, Jules, you're going to stay with us for the rest of the night, yeah?
I can't move. I'm here to stay. I'm going to sleep here if it stays like this.
Jules, James, thank you both very much. Right, Paris Saint-Germain 2, Inter Milan 0, half-time in the Champions League final. We are going to do some F1, some qualifying for the Grand Prix that you might have been listening to this afternoon. Live commentary from 2 o'clock tomorrow on 5 Live. McLaren's Oscar Piastri on pole. We'll see if we can hear from him. And Cam Norrie will be back to the French Open at Roland Garros as well. And then second half commentary from here at the Allianz, all after the news with Nick Qureshi.
The voice of the UK.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Thank you, Steve. The government says it's engaging with the US on the implications of President Trump doubling steel tariff imports to 50%. The announcement has created uncertainty for British steelmakers because the UK and US have agreed to remove the levies, but the deal hasn't yet been finalised. Liam Bates is from Marcia Gallia, a firm in Sheffield.
15 to 20% of our business goes to the US, and the vast majority of that 15-20% is our own downstream production in the US. So steel is basically melting part 1, rolling part 2, finishing part 3. The second and third parts we do in the US. Our own downstream businesses will be subject to this increased tariff, and that's devastating.
A 43-year-old man has been arrested after 3 police officers suffered significant injuries in an attack in Sussex. They were assaulted in Crawley this afternoon as they tried to make an arrest. Hamas has responded to a US proposal for a ceasefire in Gaza. The militant group says it will hand over 10 living hostages and the bodies of 18 others in exchange for the release of Palestinian prisoners. But Hamas has also repeated demands that have been repeatedly rejected by Israel. China has condemned a speech by the US Defence Secretary as full of smears and provocations. Pete Hegseth warned Beijing posed an imminent threat to Taiwan. Head of the UK's Armed Forces, Admiral Sir Tony Radakin, spoke at the same conference in Singapore.
Everyone recognises that we're in an era of renewed state-on-state competition. But unlike the Cold War, it is not so neat and simplistic as to separate the world into different blocks. Nations will continue to trade and cooperate even as they compete with one another.
The BBC's been told several hundred migrants have arrived in the UK in small boats today. One source put the number at around 1,000. The Home Office will release the number tomorrow. It has been revealed Billy Piper is replacing Ncuti Gatwa as the Time Lord in Doctor Who. He's leaving the sci-fi show after 2 seasons.
No, but Tom, he says to me, "What are you wearing?" He's like, "You look ridiculous."
His invite said yoga party. You were spot on, bro.
No. His text auto-corrected.
So what was it meant to say then?
Toga party.
What?
Oh, no.
So they all came as Romans?
Well, I never thought of it like that.
You About? Join me, Roman Kemp, and me, Tom Grennan, for our weekly catch-up, otherwise known as a podcast.
You About? Listen on BBC Sounds.
This is 5 Live Sports.
The Champions League with Steve Crossman.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
And there's a light show going on here inside the Allianz Arena as thousands of people just hold their phones in the air and put the torch on and wave it around like stars in the night sky. So many Paris Saint-Germain supporters were getting in on that. Less Inter fans, as you might imagine, because here in the Champions League final, PSG lead Inter by 2-0.
Fabian Ruiz has popped up there, back to Vitinha, back into the box, Doué with a chance, squares it, there it is, in the middle, Hakimi makes it 1-0 Paris Saint-Germain. It's the right back, they love that, they love their goal-scoring right back. Dembele, João Neves arriving, all the way across to the right, Doué with a shot deflected in, past Summer, it's 2-0. PSG are off like a shot in this Champions League final.
Second half commentary on the way. Let's go over to Roland Garros, primarily for an update on Djokovic, Musevic, but also, Abigail, I am curious, are there signs that this is happening here where you are, or does it feel like a different world?
There have been fireworks today, there have been car horns, it's been a pretty chaotic evening. I'm impressed by how well populated Court Philippe Chatrier is tonight with the PSG excitement, but the most excitement is for Novak Djokovic because he's looking in pretty much cruise control on the court where he won his elusive Olympic gold medal last season. Serve unbroken so far on this humid night in Paris, despite some entertaining courtcraft from the Austrian qualifier Filip Misalic, and it is the 3-time tournament champion Djokovic with a point for a 2-0 lead on the main stage.
From the British players who've been in action this afternoon, Jack Draper and Cameron Norrie both through to the 4th round for the first time. Actually, both did it in straight sets. So Draper beat João Fonseca. We can hear from Cam Norrie, who came through beating his fellow Brit Jacob Fernley.
I feel great, but it was really tough to get there. And yeah, it was a tough match, playing Jacob today. We both went to the same university at TCU, and he's had an amazing season, amazing breakthrough in the tour. So I was just really happy. I played a solid match, and I was a bit tentative towards the end, but it was a great atmosphere. And I went through about 7 shirts and 2 sets. There were 3 sets, so sweating a lot, and I had to work really hard for that. So it really felt good.
Are you a big football fan? You're going to try and soak in a little bit of the atmosphere tonight?
Absolutely, yeah. So it'll be a good match, and actually it'll be nice to see PSG win it.
Well, that's what it looks like is going to happen at the moment, isn't it? Paris Saint-Germain leading into 2-0 in the Champions League final. Players actually are just emerging. They emerge from effectively underground at the Allianz Arena. A little trapdoor opens and they pop up out of it. So they'll be doing that in the next few seconds. By the way, there's live F1 commentary of the Spanish Grand Prix from 2 o'clock tomorrow on 5 Live. McLaren have got a front row lockout. Oscar Piastri, the world champion, starts first ahead of Lando Norris. You'll be able to get reaction on BBC Sounds via the Checkered Flag podcast. Right, almost ready to go. I just looked to my right-hand side thinking I might ask somebody a question, and then I realised that everybody was eating bananas. So Chris Sutton, what do you think they can do in this second half? Inter, obviously they need to score and score early, but can they do that while playing the same way?
Well, obviously not. I mean, first of all, they have to try and get an element of control back into this game. But, it is all about the next goal. And I'm sure that Simone Inzaghi would have emphasised that. It'll be interesting to see whether he's made a substitution or two. But the fact of the matter is PSG have smothered them. So, whether it's going a little bit more direct, which I don't mind, so it's 2-on-2 at the back, and maybe the two strikers coming up with a bit of combination play. But at this moment in time, if PSG get the next goal, then it's curtains.
Well,
isn't it?
It is, and we've got a big 45 minutes to come then. I am going to be very busy indeed, acting as Julien Laurent's emotional support cushion while John Murray commentates on the Champions League final.
Yes, I've been watching the Inter players while we've seen pictures of them coming down the steps, and now we can see them all. I'll just say no thanks, we don't want any water at the moment. And Bastoni and Acerbi are all there. I'm not sure I can see any players that weren't out there. Mkhitaryan's out there as well. Looks like it's same again, Chris, to me.
He's given him the opportunity, Simone Inzaghi, the opportunity to try and put things right, really. It was such an insipid display in that first half. There was a fear about them, really, and it was the younger, hungrier.
How much was that PSG, though?
Yeah, no, exactly. And, I suppose the question is, can PSG keep up this intensity? But the fact that, you look at their average age, you compare that to Inters, I suspect they can.
Can they keep up this intensity? Well, having seen them keep up the intensity against Manchester City, keep up the intensity against Liverpool, keep up the intensity against Aston Villa, keep up the intensity against Arsenal, I think they might be able to. But we will see. As referee Istvan Kovac gets the second half underway here in Munich with 70,000 people watching down. Darkness has descended in Bavaria above our heads, and it is Inter in the golden yellow kit with the blue trim, who try to play it forward, but here's Doué, pass forward, flick from Dembele, Fabian Ruiz, Kvaratskhelia into action, he's in the box now, and he shoots from the angle wide of the top left corner. We've seen that goal already for him this season, haven't we? Planting it into the top corner, but this time just wide.
Yeah, they are so slick. Doué ball fits into Dembele, little back heel. Skelia onto it, driving into the box, and left-footed effort, high and wide from an acute angle.
As Inter take this goal kick, and this is right in front of us because our commentary position is sort of halfway inside one half. Dembele was like an Olympic sprinter waiting on his blocks on the edge of the area for Sommer to take that short goal kick, and then he was off sprinting, trying to put this press on them. But Inter with Martinez. I'll run you through the teams in full again, but it is as we started the match. If you saw the teams or heard the teams earlier, here's Thuram, son of the great Lilian Thuram, World Cup winner, never won the Champions League. Here's Thuram again, gets it back to number 9. Oh, in comes the challenge from Pacho. Down goes Thuram, wins the free kick, and Inter have a set piece on the right.
Yeah, and they caused problems for PSG from a couple of corners. So, daft free kick to give away from Pacho. A little bit too keen to make the challenge on Thuram. So maybe this is a moment.
So this is 5 Live. This is the genuine sound from inside the stadium here in Munich on 5 Live and the World Service from the BBC. Listening wherever you are around the globe to one of the great sporting events of any year. And at the moment, this is in PSG's hands. But Çalhanoğlu takes the free kick and he gets that all wrong, curls it over everyone inside the box, whether in a blue shirt of Paris or a yellow shirt of Inter, and it bounces behind, and it's a goal kick.
I mean, that's incredible. That free kick whipped in 15-20 yards beyond the far post, just when you need that bit of quality. That sums up Inter's evening so far pretty much perfectly.
Luis Enrique looks as calm as it's possible to be in these circumstances for a man with such energy. He's very casually dressed in black t-shirt. Simone Inzaghi looks as though he's got an appointment with the bank manager. And he steps forward and he claps his hands again, trying to urge his team on. was interested, James Horncastle saying to us before the match that this reported offer from Al Hilal would make him the richest manager in world football.
And hence why he might have to have a meeting with his bank manager.
Yeah, I would have thought if you get a job like that, you don't need to have a meeting with your bank manager. Here's Martinez. Martinez now, slipping a pass out to Barella. Barella curls it in. Thuram tries to take it down. Hakimi had to be careful, and in the end he headed it behind Donnarumma. He wasn't sure where DiMarco was behind him. DiMarco picks the ball up, races towards the corner flag. It's urgency now. Chris Sutton's talked about the importance of this next goal, and Inter know it's got to be them who score it. Çalhanoğlu runs away. DiMarco takes it. DiMarco to the near post, bounces down, still in the PSG box, scrambled away out to Mkhitaryan. The referee spotted an infringement. Free kick PSG.
Yeah, I think Simone Inzaghi actually in his technical area is screaming for a penalty for a handball for Inter. It looks like the call has gone the other way.
Well, they'll have a look. I mean, from our first look there, it seemed to hit the body of Marquinhos as opposed to the arm. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought so.
So it is a free kick to PSG. The fourth official tonight is Portuguese, actually, and the video assistant referee is from the Netherlands. So they are not all from the same country. Referee and assistants from Romania, but the VAR is Dennis Higler. Here is Kvaratskhelia on the move down the left-hand side. Fabian Ruiz's ball across deflected. Kvaratskhelia shoots wide. That was a big opening. Bastoni was down. He was stretching for it, but he couldn't direct the shot into the top corner.
No, and should have scored. That should have been the match right there. Scalia, what an opportunity. Ruiz with the pullback. I think it may have been Acerbi actually who was down, but maybe he did enough on the floor just to put Scalia off. He took a touch and once again high and wide, 6 yards out on the point of the 6-yard line.
PSG 2, Inter 0. That's been the scoreline since the 20th minute of the match. If you weren't with us in the first period, PSG went off like a bull at a gate, really. They were just too much. They were too hot to handle. I must say, Chris, it was, to me, watching so much Manchester City over the course of recent times, when Manchester City have really been in the groove and they've set their sights on starting off powerfully. That's what it reminded me of. But this is Luis Enrique's team, not Pep Guardiola's team. And PSG passing it forward again. Fabian Ruiz turns, slips it to his left. Dembele curling across the face of goal. Didn't get enough curl on it by any distance, actually. He wanted to draw it in, but it just kept its line beyond the far post.
The Dembele getting that opportunity, John, that was because he shut Jan Sommer down. Hurry clearance up the park, went to Mendes. Quick ball into Ruiz, fed Dembele. And you half fancy him in that position, drifting in on his right foot, trying to bend the ball into that far corner. But their intensity out of possession, they just do not stop running. They have outworked Inter, haven't they?
Yeah. And there's been an immense amount talked and written about Dembele being left out by Luis Enrique when they went to the Emirates to Arsenal in the league phase, and it was all to do apparently with his work for the team. Well, my goodness, he's got his act together on that front, Dembele, hasn't he? What a team man he is, providing the goals as well. And he was talking about him as being a leader for this team, Dembele, as PSG win another free kick 10 yards inside their own half after DiMarco was in tight there and committing the foul on Hakimi. Apparently, the UEFA statistics, Chris, say that Inter have run 4 kilometres more than Paris Saint-Germain as a team just now.
Yeah, it's not how far you run, it's how you run though, John.
Yeah. It ain't what you do, it's the way that you do it.
Yeah, just got my straws out there.
As Inter win a free kick on the right-hand side. Well, he is going to make a couple of changes, Simone Inzaghi, with almost 8 minutes played in the second half. So he's going to take off Pavard, who has missed the last 6 matches. So Jan Bissek is going to come on to replace him. And the other change, we'll see DiMarco coming off. Federico DiMarco, who will be replaced by the Polish international Nikola Zalewski. So double change. Çalhanoğlu takes this free kick in, and Donnarumma came and didn't get there, and it came off a defender's head, or possibly Donnarumma himself, deflected up and over his own crossbar. Acerbi was in for Inter, and Donnarumma's ended up on the ground, but I'm not sure he got there at all, Chris.
And he's still down, Donnarumma. There's a ball fizzed in. Donnarumma goes to punch, collides with Marquinhos. It is coming together. Acerbi can't quite get the flick. Donnarumma back on his feet. And PSG with some defending to do.
I assume that it's not a problem, an injury problem for DiMarco, so what a disappointment that is for him. Here is the next corner. Donnarumma comes, flaps at it. It bounces out. It's drilled across the box by the newly, as it bounces all the way to the other end to Sommer, who's able to turn it away. The chance on the edge of the box for Inter, the shot across goal, which was deflected away and then cleared away downfield by Paris Saint-Germain. Remains 2-0, but a couple of alarms there for Paris Saint-Germain, one for Dembele to chase. Bissek is able to turn it back to Sommer, who gets rid of it quickly on his right foot up towards the edge of up towards the centre circle. Barella's after that. Now there's more energy from Inter. Lautaro Martinez heads it forward. Barella just outside the edge of the penalty area. There's the overlap to the left-hand side. Cutting infield, the shot initially is blocked. That's the newly arrived Zalewski with the effort inside the area. And with that second effort, he actually caught the defender and has committed the foul, and it's a free kick to PSG on the edge of their own box.
Yeah, Zalewski coming inside, not on his right foot. Neves gets the first block, and in his attempt to retrieve the ball, he catches, I think it's Fabian Ruiz, trying to give them a bit of impetus, a bit of drive down that left-hand side. Zalewski.
So a little stoppage here, PSG, after the Fabian Ruiz just gets to his feet. The score, PSG 2, Inter 0. Hakimi and Doué, the goal scorers. Doué setting up the goal for Hakimi and then shooting in via a deflection off DiMarco. And as I say, Federico DiMarco, who, as James Horncastle was saying on 5 Live at half-time, he's an Inter fan, born in Milan, you know, would be in the stands watching Inter. Son of a greengrocer, he is a Milan greengrocer. The club means so much to them, and here he is, Champions League final. They lost 2 years ago. Now they're facing defeat for a second time in 3 years, and he's been substituted. And maybe an issue, we don't know, but Zalewski coming on to replace him. PSG serenaded by the drums of the French supporters. Ball passed from deep into the penalty area, but Sommer's able to clear. Now a turn by Thuram, went between two French defenders, Pacho and João Neves. Between them they sandwiched Thuram. That's a free kick near the centre circle. And referee Kovac has been called across to speak to someone, I think, on the Inter bench, and he's calling forward Simone Inzaghi, and it's a yellow card for Simone Inzaghi. Meanwhile, 10 yards to the left, Luis Enrique is going absolutely crazy about something. Who's he talking to? It's one of the, it might be Dembele. I think it was the player furthest forward. Anyway, yellow card for Simone, something he said rather amusingly. He disappeared quickly and sat down and had to be beckoned out by referee Kovac to be shown the yellow card. Free kick for Inter as they play from left to right. Both teams now attacking towards the end where the bulk of their supporters are. They win themselves another throw down that left flank that will be hurled in from deep, from level with the edge of the PSG penalty area. There have been a couple of uncertain moments for Donnarumma already in this second half. but PSG leading as they are 2-0. Here is the long throw. Marquinhos gets up, heads it down, bounces out to the edge of the area where Barella controlled it, but just pumped it over the top of the crossbar on the volley and through for a goal kick.
Yeah, just don't know why he didn't take that first time. That Marquinhos, I think, with a header and the ball just bouncing. It did bounce up a little bit, but he's still capable of getting his right hip up nice and high and getting a shot off. He didn't, took the touch and was closed down high and wide.
That's Chris Sutton with us here in Munich, in the stadium. This low commentary position. Excellent view of Kvaratskhelia just down in front of us. The referee is trying to get Donnarumma to get a move on with things, so he's on to that. As ball's fired forward by Barella, comes out and he's not able to keep it in play, but it is a throw into Inter. Simone Inzaghi comes little tiptoes in his shiny black shoes all the way along the dotted line of his coaching area to say something to Barella. He's got to be careful, otherwise he'll be sent to the stands in the Champions League final. Now Bisek, the central defender, is going to take it on, but tried to do too much. He's out of position now. PSG might be able to break, but they can't. And Inter come again, having a better spell right now. Zalewski now to the left-hand side. The ball is deflected across. Donnarumma comes and is able to catch it, much to the relief of those PSG supporters in the stands to our left. They've brought the Virage Auteuil with them from the Parc des Princes. I don't know whether you saw all of those white t-shirts outside the ground, and they've got a banner up there as well. That's the popular end at the Parc des Princes, and they've tried to recreate that inside the stadium here. But we've got a stoppage because Bisek, after his wander forward, has ended up injured.
Yeah, it's a diagonal run from sort of right centre half position deep into the PSG half. Kvaratskhelia tracked him all the way, won the ball back, and you mentioned John in the first half. That's a big feature of his game, isn't it? Not just with the ball, with his wizardry, dribbling. I wonder whether Bisek's holding his hamstring there, which
having changed one of your central defenders already, that would be an issue, wouldn't it?
Well, I'm not a medical expert, but I know where the hamstring is.
Yeah.
And he's holding it.
But Kvaratskhelia, when he's in possession, and here he is now receiving it from a flick from Doué. That was wonderful to watch. Hakimi, now Dembele, back to Hakimi, shoots it all the way across the 6-yard box, and Kvaratskhelia was waiting on the far side of the penalty area, and if Hakimi had been able to pick him out, that might have been 3-0 as well.
Absolutely, all about Doué though, isn't it? The magic little twirl and flick. Hakimi goes for the far corner, but Doué this evening has been absolutely sensational.
It has been
it?
a joy to watch, and as you say, Chris, a twirl there. Used to say, didn't they, on Saturday nights, give us a twirl? Well, he did here in Munich. Nuno Mendes plays it back to Vitinha. Vitinha lifts one in, but over everyone and through, and bounces behind for a goal kick. And another double change for Inter, which sort of gives the impression to me that we're getting towards panic stations. You know, he's got to make something happen here.
Well, Bisek's not coming back on, so that's unfortunate.
Yeah, very unfortunate for Inter, and he's been led away over there into the far corner. Therefore, Carlos Augusto has been thrown into the breach, and let's see where he's going to fit in. They're going to have a rejig, and Matteo Darmian has come on as well. So we've almost got the full house now, haven't we, of the old brigade for Inter, with Acerbi on at 37, and goalkeeper Sommer at 36, and Mkhitaryan at 36, and now Darmian at 35, the former Manchester United defender. And Carlos Augusto is on the field, as I mentioned.
Yeah, he's gone to in a left wing back role,
so he's left wing back, and Pavard had to go off early in the half. PSG now completely changed into back line, and Bastoni struggling to get there. He can't get there. It's Doué who slips the ball into the bottom corner of the internet. Off comes his shirt, and the teenager stands in front of the stand celebration of the Paris Saint-Germain supporters. I think the moment may be about to arrive for the French champions. Paris Saint-Germain are inching ever closer to winning the Champions League. Doué with 2 goals. A Doué duo. What a night he's had. He set up the other one, and it's PSG 3, Inter 0.
The flicks and the tricks and the finishing. Doué at the double. He was never going to miss, not the evening he's had. It doesn't matter how many subs in to make, John. Bring on to freshen things up. They've been well beaten. Lovely little flick from Dembele to release Vitinha. He just waits his ball to Doué, who strolls onto it. First time, beats Sommer at his near post. Big gap at the near post. No blame really attached to Sommer. It's a composed finish. The finish of a confident young player. And surely it's game, set, match now for PSG. They've been a joy to watch this evening. They've simply blown this old, ageing, experienced Inter team away.
It looks as though it's going to be Paris Saint-Germain's night here in Munich. And it looks as though Inter are going to lose in this final for the second time in 3 seasons. And with that, Luis Enrique says, 3-0 up, what shall we do? How about a bit of Bradley Barcola? How do you like that?
That's all you need, isn't it? You're an Inter defender.
And he was almost certainly going to come on. He's played in every match this season, either starting or coming off the bench. But no one will want to come off. Not one of this front three. I mean, Dembele's not scored, but you know, he's played his full part, Dembele. Inter vainly trying to come forward as Dumfries can't reach that. And João Neves just used his body really there to block Dumfries, and it ran through for a goal kick. So there we are, Chris. PSG 3, Inter 0. And to me, this is right out of the playbook from what we've seen from this Paris Saint-Germain side in the second half of the Champions League season. And it is going to be Désiré Doué who is going to be substituted with 25 minutes to play, having put his thumbprint all over this Champions League final. And this young man, 19 years old, turns 20 on Tuesday, turns and waves an arm, waves a fist of celebration towards the PSG players as he leaves the pitch. Is replaced by Bradley Barcola. He's got a massive smile on his face. Luis Enrique says, well done, young man, and he goes to take his seat on the bench. What a night, what a job he's done. As Inter come forward now, there's a double collision at the near post. Marquinhos was in there, but the ball bounced for PSG, as it feels like it is one of those nights where it does.
I can't believe Luis Enrique's taken Doué off. Been the best player on the park. I suppose Barcola going on, he was always going to get some part to play in this game, and he's, you said it, not a bad replacement at all.
Yeah, he's replaced a man who's scored 15 goals this season with a man who's scored 21 goals this season, Barcola. And incidentally, that goal there, that third goal for Paris Saint-Germain, brought up 150 goals in all competitions for PSG this season. 36 of them in the Champions League. They've been my team of the season in this competition.
Well, I mean, you know, talk about doing it the hard way, getting to this final. Also, it's such a struggle at the start. There's a head scratcher, really, but it's not how you start, John. It's how you finish. And boy, have they put on a show tonight.
It's not how you start, it's how you finish. And by Jove, they are finishing brilliantly here. It's for a performance in a final like this, when the pressure's on. And this is something else, isn't it? To be able to come out and do what they've done tonight, that is the ultimate testament to what they've done.
Against a really streetwise quality Inter team, and that's been a feature of PSG's play. Dembele just drifting off the back line, getting a little overload in the midfield and just popping the ball off and going to show for it again. And they just haven't been able to cope, Inter, really, with the way that they've interchanged and combined and moved.
PSG with the jubilant backdrop of the songs of the Paris Saint-Germain supporters inside the stadium here as Thuram rather dived into that challenge with Fabian Ruiz, who's been on the end of a number of rough challenges. And it was 50-50-ish, but he went in, he caught Fabian Ruiz, and it's a yellow card for Thuram. But you're absolutely right, Chris, in the Champions League this season, when we went to Parc des Princes in January, when they were going to play Manchester City, they were tottering then. They were actually in the elimination places in the league phase, this new league phase this season. That's where PSG were. As here they play the ball forward. Barcola might be offside, takes it on into the box. Barcola's ball across, and the arriving Dembele wasn't able to get a touch on that. There is no flag. Onside. Fabian Ruiz with a cross, comes on the head of the defender. Then Barcola couldn't keep the shot down and blazes it over the top of the bar from 8-10 yards.
Yeah, he's got to score, Barcola. Good ball from Ruiz to the far post. Hakimi trying to attack it. Takes a touch, 6 yards out on the point of the 6-yard line and hammers it a yard over the bar. Just has to control that effort. Easier if he just tries to choke that into the floor. He goes for broke. Should have been 4.
Another change, and that is that number 5? It is number 5 for Inter, and that's the end of Çalhanoğlu. He's had quite a difficult night, hasn't he, in the midfield for Inter. He did get a knock early on, if you remember, in the first few minutes of the match, but it's this brilliant PSG midfield that has run the show.
Yeah, absolutely. I think all the Inter midfielders have struggled. You know, you think of Mkhitaryan, Çalhanoğlu have had many touches. Barella's been involved a little bit more.
Yeah. As PSG, Fabian Ruiz stabs it forward. Here's the tail of João Neves, who I think was fouled. Kvaratskhelia passes it forward. Fabian Ruiz on the chase, and the referee actually is going to bring it back for the foul. What's he doing here? He's looking for the player who fouled. It's a Cherby. It's a Cherby who turns with that straggly hair hanging down and that rough beard of his. He turns and he says, "Me?" Really? For that blatant block on João Neves. So Cherby, it's not going to happen tonight after that amazing semi-final and the goal that he scored, his first Champions League goal, and what a finish as well it was on his right foot. And it looks as though that effort really in the Champions League for Inter to get through against Barcelona has been their final fling. They've not been able to live with PSG in the way that they went toe-to-toe with Barcelona. As I thought Pacho blocked the taking of that free kick there, but referee allows it to go. Barella, the pass out towards the left-hand side. Rather confusingly, someone in the stands here seems to have a referee's whistle that they keep blowing. Fabian Ruiz, halfway inside his own half. If you just switched on to us on 5 Live or the World Service, PSG are on their way to victory here in Munich. 3-0 up on Inter, and Luis Enrique is going to be the man, it would appear, who's finally going to deliver the big trophy for the modern Paris Saint-Germain. Dembele's pass forward, Kvaratskhelia onto this, into the box, scores number 4, that seals it. Kvaratskhelia with a finish that was unerring past summer. It's 4-0 now. All of the players are involved in the celebrations. Luis Enrique is down on the pitch here in front of us. He's dancing, he's punching his fists into the air. Paris Saint-Germain know they've got it now. They're going to be collecting that Champions League trophy. 4-0.
Oh, it's an absolute mauling, isn't it? It really is. Once he went through Kvaratskhelia, you knew he was going to finish. I think it was once again Dembele on the drift in the wide area, slips the ball through to Kvaratskhelia. I think Bastoni can't get near him, and he just draws Sommer out. Sommer leaves that gap at the near post. And he finds the gap. It's a devastating finish. It's a clinical finish. PSG have been clinical all evening. A couple of wing wizards tonight with important goals, but what an evening. They have absolutely annihilated Inter.
Wild celebrations from Paris Saint-Germain. Their supporters in the stands, all of the players, the substitutes, whether they've gone off the field, whether they're yet to come on, the coaching staff, Luis Enrique, they know that was the moment, that was the release there that we saw with that finish from this great Georgian, Kavica Kvaratskhelia, was sent away, and he only had one thing on his mind. That ball, after the chances that he'd missed in this match, that ball was going to end up in the back of the net, and it surely did. He smashed it past the Inter goalkeeper. That's 4-0, and this Georgian who is an absolute delight to watch, with his slight figure and his blue socks down and his white tape round his left wrist, the man who keeps the ball under his spell, well, he's waved the wand, and the PSG celebrations now are absolutely in full swing here in the home of Bayern Munich.
Yeah, the other thing about Kvaratskhelia is his work rate, isn't it? His work ethic, chasing back. He's not a prima donna, doesn't think he's cracked it.
Barella might have a goal. In fact, beats Pacho, still going, lays it off to his left, and then the shot from Thuram is blocked on the edge of the 6-yard box, and PSG are able to get it away. That was, well, a chance to notch a goal, but I'm afraid it's gone. This final's gone for Inter.
Yeah, no real conviction in the finish from Thuram. Barella did well. Maybe should have been awarded a free kick. The referee played a good advantage, but that's Donnarumma down to a T, isn't it? Down to his left-hand side. Thuram trying to find that far corner. Donnarumma reading the shot and unsurprisingly keeping it out. Big left hand.
Well, that's what he'll want, won't he? Donnarumma, another clean sheet. No more clean sheets for Jan Sommer tonight. The very opposite. Inter mentioned their defensive capabilities, but well, tonight PSG have just been too good for them. 4 goals on the night, and the ball from Inter right across the area. I think it took a touch off one of the PSG players in the box, which means that it's gone behind for a corner. Luis Enrique is just preparing to make another change with Lucas Hernandez coming on, the French international. Corner for Inter, into the near post. That's headed away, bounces across the box, and then is hoisted high by Marquinhos. Donnarumma comes, gets a punch on that, but it's already bounced behind the line, and it's another Inter corner. Lucas Hernandez just waiting to get his chance to become a part of all this. Corner from the left-hand side this time. It's a deep one into the gloves of Donnarumma, who's able to back away, catch the ball, and then thunder down to the ground and hold that ball securely. So we've got 13 minutes to play. Chris, 13 minutes before we can properly herald Paris Saint-Germain as Champions League winners for the first time. I think what they would want to do now is nothing silly, not to give anything away.
Just not be careless, really. Keep that intensity level up for the game's done and dusted. From a player's perspective, it's just making sure you see it through now, and they will do, I'm sure of that.
2 goals in each half. Hakimi and Doué in the first 20 minutes. That set the tone, but really more than that, it was the way that Paris Saint-Germain imposed themselves on this final that set the tone then. And this second change that PSG are making, we'll see Nuno Mendes leaving the field. He's been one of their players of the season, but there again, you could probably say that about almost every man out there.
Yeah, brilliant in those 1v1 situations. Nuno Mendes, not a bad replacement.
Not bad. Yeah, Lucas Hernandez, World Cup winner, coming on to replace the Portuguese left back. who, as I say, will be playing here again, I would imagine, on Wednesday night for Roberto Martinez's Portugal in the Nations League against Germany in the semi-final in that competition, as Barcola carries it forward. This time next week, by the way, if you're listening to 5 Live, you'll be hearing us in Barcelona for Andorra against England, the next match for Thomas Tuchel and co, as Inter bring it forward. We'll bring you commentary on all of the World Cup qualifiers and internationals. Kvaratskhelia is tackling back on Dumfries. They love that, and then Dumfries fouls Kvaratskhelia, and it's a free kick, and they come across. Vitinha comes across and gives him a cuddle.
But that sums up PSG. This PSG team under Luis Enrique. Didn't happen with Mbappe in the team. Forwards tracking back, and it's been a constant all night, hasn't it? Good with the ball, outstanding without the ball. Luis Enrique a couple of moments ago applauding Dembele for shutting down Jan Sommer. Jan Sommer punting the ball up the pitch. PSG playing into offside. It's all about the work rate, isn't it? That work ethic, the team spirit.
Yeah, as Fabian Ruiz plays it to Kvaratskhelia, who skips in field, but Barella's able to get a touch on this, and it's deflected back into the Inter penalty area. So 4-0, and the worry for Inter is that it seems to me that PSG are in the mood to actually get 1 or 2 more, and with gaps showing at the back and the changes that they've had to make, Inter, that might be entirely possible.
I think it's one of those as Inter, they've got enough experience in the team. They're not getting back in this. Just shut up shop.
As Inter come forward and actually try a shot from the edge of the area that is hit by Zalewski, but straight at Donnarumma, who's able to make a routine save. 10 minutes to go. Paris Saint-Germain 4-0 up as Marquinhos puts his foot on the ball. Lucas Hernandez is able to get his first feel of that Champions League final ball, and then passes it to Vitinha, who wasn't able this time to slip the pass through against Dembele. It's cut out by Acerbi, but watch out Inter. Barcola's now onto it. Barcola, he's passed Acerbi! Oh, he's put it wide! Oh, he did everything there! He left Acerbi on the seat of his pants and just had to pop it past Sommer into the bottom corner and put it wide into the side netting.
I believe he's missed that. It was so good how he set a Acerbi up, shaped on his right foot to fire a shot into the far corner, sat him down, and then one-on-one has to score. Tries to beat Sommer at his near post from 6 yards and drags it horribly wide. What a piece of skill, though, and then the poor execution.
Well, where's that come from? That's the Bradley Barcola I remember last season. Do you remember the match against Newcastle? Where some of the chances he missed in that match. But this one, I mean, he created with absolute genius, really. And he made Acerbi look 57, never mind 37. Here's Lucas Hernandez. If they get another one, by the way, the biggest score line in terms of winning margin is 4 goals. That's the biggest winning margin in any European club final. So another one would set a record, as Barcola is able to carry it forward. So that's any of the European competitions. My mind goes back to Middlesbrough when they lost to Seville. That was 4-0. And of course, one of the most famous finals of all, Real Madrid, Eintracht Frankfurt. That was 7-3, wasn't it? So that was the 4-goal margin. And now we get the Olés. They might be French, but they're giving it the Olés. And why not? And just looking to my left now, there are 3 tiers there of PSG supporters. And again, just to underline it, you maybe weren't listening earlier, as the ball is played forward by Fabian Ruiz to Barcola, who pulls his shot wide across the face of goal. Dembele was waiting in the middle. He's not got in on the act yet. Hakimi, 2 for Doué and 1 for Kvaratskhelia. And Luis Enrique says, OK, let's throw another 3 on. So Warren Zaire-Emery, another of the teenagers, is going to come on into the midfield to replace Fabian Ruiz, who I say has taken a few knocks tonight. So the very highly rated Zaire-Emery is going to come on. Gonzalo Ramos, this is a move that we're very used to seeing. Gonzalo Ramos coming on to replace Kvaratskhelia. So that's the end of his evening. So the Georgian has left the field. Sorry to see him go as well, Chris.
Yeah. Absolutely. What an evening he's had. Was it Neves who's as well? I think it is Neves.
Yes, it was João Neves. So those are the 3 changes. And we have also coming onto the field Seni Mayulu, another of the teenagers. So that's 2 19-year-olds coming on. And Sommer clearing the ball from his own penalty area to the halfway line as Inter again mount some kind of attack. They're managing to maintain some energy in this, even though at 4-0 down, that is a mightily tough thing to do. Darmian, and it's going to be so hard for Inzaghi and the players to have to explain this away. The simple explanation is PSG have just been far too good.
I think it's one of those after, you try and analyse the game and you can strip everything back, but at that point you made, John, PSG have just been in a different league.
They have. Darmian passing it through the middle where Martinez tries to turn on the edge of the box, but just too physical. He's not been able to get into the game, Martinez, has he? He has had a recent injury, but I don't know whether that's anything to do with it. Just not seen enough of the ball.
No, exactly that. Lack of service. And in fairness, PSG, Pacho and Marquinhos have played the 2 into strikers pretty well this evening.
That's Chris Sutton with us on 5 Live on this joyous night for Paris Saint-Germain Football Club, as PSG break forward again and the gaps once again open up. Barcola receives it on the edge of the box, back to the edge of the area, into Barcola, left side of the box, now forward again, and that's it! It's 5-0! It's a record scoreline! Seni Mayulu, the 19-year-old, has sparked extraordinary celebrations on the pitch here in Munich. 5-0 on the night, the biggest score that has ever been witnessed in a European club final, the biggest margin of victory. And Luis Enrique, all of the years that Paris Saint-Germain have waited for this day to arrive, it is all absolutely pouring out here with that finish for number 5 from another of the academy products, Seni Mayulu. Paris Saint-Germain 5, Inter 0. What a scoreline.
And what a moment for Mayulu. Clever little ball into Barcola, and he just carries his run on. Little underlap on the wrong side of Darmian. Angle against him, left-footed, goes for power, beats Sommer. Had his near post, in off the near post. What a great moment for the young man. Off the bench, gets his goal. I mean, this is an absolute pummeling, isn't it?
Well, he did score in the Champions League earlier this season in the playoff round when they hammered 7 goals past Brest. And that is their record win in European competitions. But for all of the predictions and all of the talking before this match, here over the last couple of days and in the build-up to it, 50-50. Could go Inter, could go PSG.
Are you having a pop at me there,
I'm not.
John?
I was saying exactly the same thing. No one is saying Paris Saint-Germain are going to hammer them 5-0.
Maybe lack a bit of experience. How would they cope?
All of that.
And I tell you what, Luis Enrique can move, can't he? You talk about the running the PSG players have done on the pitch, blimey. Seeing him tearing down the touchline, celebrating.
What, the guy who does the Ironman and the marathons?
Well, that's endurance, John.
Cycling.
That's endurance. Shouldn't be dynamism.
I think the amount of ground he's covered, he's probably lapped this stadium 15 times. I mean, the PSG supporters in the stands, they must not be able to believe their eyes here tonight. And they've got their scarves up. They've got their scarves up above their heads, down in the bottom tier. In fact, all 3 tiers now. And when I say tears, that stand will be full of tears, won't it? Tears of joy. And again, to underline it, this club, Paris Saint-Germain, was only formed in 1970. So it's a relatively young football club when the old Paris FC was merged with Stade Saint-Germain. But then, of course, the big change came when the Qatari ownership got involved. They want 6 now. Barcola plays it across. Dembele, who's still not been able to get on the score sheet here tonight, despite the 5 PSG goals. Vitinha, it's almost like they're trying to set him up for this. Vitinha, then Zaire Emery over to the far side. Inter absolutely chasing shadows.
How good has he been, Vitinha? He's just given the ball away for the first time this evening. But, you know, we talk about Doué and what about Scalia.
Yellow card for Hakimi there for breaking down the Inter counter-attack.
But Vitinha's the one who knits everything together, isn't he?
And that is it! The referee says 90 minutes are enough. He's basically said to Inter, you've taken enough punishment. Paris Saint-Germain have won the Champions League here in Munich. All of those years of waiting. I think some PSG supporters wondered whether this day would ever come. Disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. Defeat in the final, in the COVID final, when none of the Paris Saint-Germain supporters could be there to witness it. But they are here tonight in their thousands, and they must not be able to believe what they have seen. 5-0. Luis Enrique is the man. He's brought the trophy. He's brought the big night. And Inter have to accept that they were a distant second best, losing in this final for the second time in 3 years. But tonight was PSG's night.
Yeah, and a perfect Paris Saint-Germain this evening. What a performance. Blew away a wily old Inter team. You know, we talked about the flair and the flamboyance, but this is a Paris Saint-Germain team who fight as well when out of possession, and they suffocated Inter.
And let me just describe this, because Luis Enrique is leading the celebrations now. And what celebrations! He's won the Champions League before, but he won it with Barcelona. This is the team that he built, and he is right at the front of this in his black t-shirt. He's down there, all of the players following him. He's like the Pied Piper of Munich, and he's dancing and he's punching the air, the smile on his face. I think probably everyone knows the agonies and the personal tragedy that he has come through. Well, tonight is a night that he can really enjoy this, because he is the architect. Qatar may have provided the money for this, and eventually the ship has come in, but they needed Luis Enrique to do it, Chris.
Yeah, and guide them. He has, even him in his wildest dreams, I don't think he would have seen this dominance this evening, this scoreline against an Inter team who have been excellent in this competition. But there's ways to win a football match, there's ways to win a final, and blimey, that was one of them. They barely put a foot wrong in every area, every aspect of the team. They were dominant, and this is a young team. Maybe this is just the start.
Yeah, in January we thought they might be going out of the competition altogether. But then they gave Manchester City a good hiding and just went on from there. They rescued their Champions League season. They knocked out Liverpool, the number 1 seeds. They knocked out Aston Villa. They knocked out Arsenal. And here in the final in Munich, well, they've knocked Inter out of the park. Paris Saint-Germain 5, Inter 0 is the extraordinary final score to this 2025 Champions League final. And Steve Crossman, like the rest of us, is wondering, how's that happened?
Absolutely astonishing. For the first time since Benfica 1962, Eusebio et al., a team have scored 5 goals in the European Cup final. And it's Paris Saint-Germain. And John Murray asked the question as the PSG players celebrate on the far side in front of 70 or 80 riot police. There's no sign of any issues with the PSG fans beyond the obvious, beyond the flares that are going off behind the goal at the minute. He asked the question, if you were a PSG supporter, you could be forgiven for thinking this might not happen. Julien Laurent, that just happened.
I still can't really believe it, Steve, I won't lie. My eyes are so full of tears still, but this is probably the greatest performance I've seen from a team ever. And this is my team in the Champions League final with my sons in the stands. It's a day that I never thought I would see, really, after all the pains and all those years. 40 years I was waiting for this, and now it's here, and it's just exceptional. And I never thought that the game could be so good and could go all like that, and all the stress and everything, but they've done it. They're a wonderful team, and Luis Enrique is a wonderful coach, and they deserve it all. But it's just an exceptional night.
I've just seen, Steve, Luis Enrique tearing his shirt off, just like Doué did when he scored the goal. And you don't see many 55-year-old managers tearing their shirts off, whatever happens.
If I was doing the Ironmans that he was doing, I might, but I'm not. Goodness me. I mean, you spoke to him, Jules, in the week. You said to Luis Enrique, what would it mean to Paris for this to happen? And he gave you a look which kind of said, well, you tell me, so you tell us.
I think it means everything to this city and to those fans and to the club, and they've been chasing it for so long, even back in the 90s with David Ginola and George Weah, and the fans have always been there. And then, yeah, the Qatari arrived with their money, and they tried, as we explained earlier, by splashing money at it, trying to almost buy this trophy here, the Holy Grail. And then for them to change direction, invest in youth, still spending money, of course, but going for something that looks more like a team than ever before, and doing it on that first year, really, with the youngest team in the competition. And the football that they played, it's not just the age, it's just the football that they played. John was mentioning the team that they beat along the way since they turned that game around against Manchester City in January, and they were just outstanding. They play football the right way. That's what people like them. They are likeable now because the football is great. Everything they do is great.
Luis Enrique put his top back on then, and then was thrown up in the air by all of the Paris Saint-Germain players in a big ring, and eventually they caught him and put him down on the floor.
That's a great point, Jules, what you say there about actually they've made PSG likeable. You know, because people generally, I think it's fair to say, don't like the clubs. The neutrals don't like the clubs that have taken the petrol money. But you know what he's done has definitely changed the perspective on that club.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, for a long time people were saying this is a plastic club almost. It's not a very old club per se because they merged and they were formed in 1970 from 2 clubs in Paris already, but still it's not the same history as an Inter Milan or as a Real Madrid or Barcelona. I get that, and because they were spending that money trying to assemble the team with great players because they thought this is how we can win the Champions League, people didn't like them, and I can completely understand it. And also they didn't look like a team either. They didn't have the mentality of a team. Everything that this team has was not there for the last 14 years pretty much, or not all of it. And now they've done it. That jigsaw that we mentioned before the game, all those little pieces, some bigger than others. Even Kvaratskhelia, who, by the way, will end the season with a Serie A medal, a Ligue 1 medal, a French Cup medal, and a Champions League medal. This is the last piece of that jigsaw that arrived in January. But all those pieces fitted together, and Luis Enrique, 10 years on, his daughter passed away. She's not here with us tonight, but she was there 10 years ago, Sana. And 10 years on, he wins another treble. Only the second manager in history to do that with Pep. And he's the Munich magic again. For the 5th time, a first-time winner is crowned here. It's just special.
Jules, I think it's really telling that only now are the cameras starting to focus on other players like Donnarumma, like Doué, like Hakimi and Kvaratskhelia, because this does just feel like the Luis Enrique story by a distance. I'm not even sure it's close.
When I saw him 10 days ago, I said to him, I know you're not going to agree with me, but this is the Luis Enrique project for me. And he smiled and he said, and I know exactly what he was going to say, because it's not him. We mentioned before Nasser Al-Khelaifi, the president who's been there since day one, Luis Campos, that we see on the page, the sporting director, who went to get Pacho Eintracht Frankfurt that maybe not many people had heard of before. And João Neves at Benfica at 19 that maybe not many other people had heard before, or Désiré Doué even. It's them. It's not just Luis Enrique, but Luis Enrique is the architect. He is the one who drew the plans, drew the style and the philosophy, who put all of that together for them to be incredible with the ball, very good without the ball, balanced and structured and clever, and with technical ability and with the right fitness too, just perfect. And the way he changed Ousmane Dembélé, what he did with Doué, you can look at every single player on the pitch tonight. He's improved them this season. From where they were back in August to the 31st of May, they've all become better. That's thanks to Luis Enrique.
Meanwhile, James Horncastle, as we look away to the right-hand side of the pitch, the Inter players, goodness me, they're all so still. They were down on their knees and down on the floor, and there were tears. Now they are standing in the centre circle like statues.
Because they didn't want to feel this way again. That was the entire point of getting back here. Hakan Çalhanoğlu, their midfield player, said yesterday that it was a second chance. I think they all realised that it was also their last chance. And I think that's why the tears are the same as in Istanbul. The pain is the same, but it's different. It cuts deeper. And I think Jules was talking about how this Paris Saint-Germain team had the youngest average age in this competition. When you've got Francesco Acerbi, who's 36, when you've got Jan Sommer, who's around the same age, you've got 6 or 7 core guys in that Inter team who are in their 30s. Yet they appreciate that they might not get back here, that it took an awful lot to return to the Champions League final after 2 years ago. Jules mentioned how PSG had done it in getting here. Inter, I think, felt that after knocking out Bayern, after knocking out Barcelona, they could beat anyone. But PSG were too much for them tonight. And I also wonder as well if they were too keenly aware that this was their last chance, and that had some psychological impact on them tonight.
Do you think there will be a little regret there as the Champions League trophy, the European Cup, is now brought out to that plinth, and in a moment they're going to have to walk past it, James, with their runners-up medals?
Yeah, I mean, Jules, we were just saying that Javier Pastore bring out the trophy. Javier Pastore was the first player signed by Nasser Al-Khelaifi as the guy who started this project. He was like, we don't want to sign Messi. They did later sign Messi. We want the new Messi. And Pastore was supposed to be that. And instead we've maybe seen what? Désiré Doué and
Exactly.
These guys are the new Messi.
Yeah, and I guess it's a good symbol that Javier is here, and we see Dembélé and Nasser Al-Khelaifi with a massive hug on the stage before the referee go and collect the medal. It's a little bit of all of that, because this history tonight, and Chris at halftime when I said the game is not over yet, surely looked at me with his big eyes, and I knew exactly what I was thinking. But PSG have been there before. PSG is the remontada where Barcelona, after winning the first leg 4-0, losing 6-1. PSG is the defeat against Manchester United at the Parc des Princes and the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. We've been here before their hearts have been broken so many times, but finally to get past that final hurdle and to make it and to finally win this trophy, and also for French football in general, this is great. I know the Farmers League nickname that it has, how people see it, or people don't even watch it. Sometimes I get that, but it was 32 years since Marseille won the only Champions League that French football had ever won, here in Munich, down the road at the Olympic Stadium. And I think really it was long due for French football to get another one.
Luis Enrique is still going absolutely crazy. He's part of a big guard of honour that's been formed ever thus in big finals. The Paris Saint-Germain players standing on either side and applauding as the Inter players in their yellow shirts go walking through them. Lautaro Martinez is right at the head of the queue there, and he shakes hands with Nasser Al-Khelaifi, the PSG owner. Acerbi is next to him as well. And now they begin to get those runners-up medals. And this, I always think, is just a heartbreaking moment, because they are 3, 4, 5 metres from the European Cup, James. And a lot of them know that's as close as they will ever get.
It is, and they were talking about this as being the only thing that they were missing to be fulfilled in their careers. Because as a group, and they are a really good group of lads, you know, in terms of the team spirit, the team ethic that they've got, in terms of, you know, all being great friends, wanting to go that extra yard for each other. Yeah, this was all that they were missing. You know, they've won the league, they've won the cup, they've won the Super Cup, they've been to a Europa League final, they've been to a Champions League final. They just wanted to lift that trophy. And again, as was the case 2 years ago, they have to stand and stare as someone else is dancing, someone else is singing, as Julien Laurens is jumping up and down in the press stand. And they know that, leaving aside what winning this trophy would have done for Inter, just consider their last week, losing the title on the final day of the season. That's the second time that's happened to Inter in the last 3 years. Losing the Champions League for the second time in 3 years in the final. Yeah, it was very curious to hear some of the journalistic questioning yesterday to say, Nicolo Barella, you've lost a lot in your career, haven't you? They have. You know, they've won a lot, but they've lost a lot. And it's just part of sport. That's what we love about it. And
Luis Enrique has just given the biggest hug to Nasser Al-Khelaifi. He's walked past the European Cup and he's rubbing his hands together. John Murray, it's almost time.
Well, what they're supposed to do here is they're supposed to receive their medals, give their thank yous, and then go and stand on a stage over to the right. They cannot leave that trophy alone. Luis Enrique, who was the first man up, who walked through all of the PSG players, who slapped him on the back. He actually stood behind the plinth, behind the trophy, which has the red and blue ribbons on it, clapped his hands together, and the other players just joined him there. And only now, actually, have they begun to move away. And very soon we will have that moment. And what a fitting man it is for PSG to lift the trophy here. Marquinhos, who is waiting at the end of the line to do just that. And that exchange as well between the PSG president, Nasser Al-Khelaifi, the smiles, the unadulterated joy. And now it's Marquinhos. Marquinhos steps up there onto the blue stage, and there's the hug between the captain and the president together. He slaps him on the back, he cuddles him, and Marquinhos now moves over to the UEFA president, Alexander Ceferin, and has that medal put around his neck. Marquinhos, the number 5, 12 years at the club, captain for 5 years. He thought this day might never come. They all thought this day might never come. But here it is, on the last day of May 2025. It finally comes to pass for Paris Saint-Germain as Marquinhos walks the trophy across and raises it above his head to signify that Paris Saint-Germain are champions of Europe, dominant in France for so long, with all of their Qatar riches. They were in danger of going out of this competition in January. But here they are now at the end of May with the trophy in their hands. And in Munich, we have Paris Saint-Germain as first-time winners. Only the second French club to win it, both here in Munich. Marseille held that position for so many years, but now Paris Saint-Germain can say they have won the European Cup. And the scenes of celebration in front of the stage. Behind them on the arch, it says PSG winners, and that is precisely what they are. Gold ticker tape all over the place. Champions League theme playing, and big French smiles everywhere you look.
Chris Sutton, there goes that glass ceiling.
Yeah. Absolutely, it's what happens next. I mean, astonishing performance in the final, but talk about, earning the right, the hard yards, talk about the three English sides which they beat and how they had to show that resilience to get here. But then to perform as they did do with that confidence, that class, that belief, that energy. And as I say, this could go on for many a season. And English clubs will be looking at this PSG team and thinking, blimey, if they stay together, they could even strengthen. Then they're going to take some beating.
Well, everyone is having a go on the trophy, and there's Luis Enrique, and now he's on the shoulders of his players, hoisting the trophy above his head with the red and the blue ribbons. He's been here before, he's seen it all before, and yet still he's looking through watery eyes at that famous trophy. And now it's the club president, Nasser Al-Khelaifi, who's hoisted up on the shoulders. I wouldn't drop him, that would be very, very expensive. He's got a winner's medal on as well. And I'm just looking, James, and a couple of the Inter players have actually stayed behind, and it's that sort of strange thing, isn't it? Sometimes they just feel runners-up in this situation, that they have to stay, albeit it feels like they can't watch.
Yeah, Nicola Barella is still out there, and Barella is one of the players who has had most success, not only with Inter, but he was part of that Italy team that beat England in the European Championships. He has been on the other side of nights like this, but that is of no consolation for Barella, who is one of the senior players, not only for Inter but for his country as well, and someone who, as with Alessandro Bastoni, Federico Di Marco, these players are good enough to play with some of the other top sides in the world. They could play in the Premier League, they could play with some of the big clubs in Spain. But for those three, there's nothing bigger for them than playing with and winning with Inter. And so it means that nights like tonight hurt all the harder.
I'm just staring up at the roof of the Allianz Arena, where there is that great imprinted Beckenbauer 5 shirt just staring back down at the pitch. To see PSG's number 5, to see Marquinhos lifting that trophy. He rubbed it in his hands like a magic lamp. And now the PSG players go sprinting through the pitch, through the line of riot police, who thankfully have been very, very much unnecessary over the course of the 20 minutes or so since the full-time whistle. And now they hold the trophy aloft right in front of their fans. There are knee slides, arms in aeroplane formation, heads in hands, people on the floor, people on the shoulders of teammates. Wonderful images for everybody associated with Paris Saint-Germain. Chris, it's almost difficult to know which individual to pick out first, but this sort of feels like the Desiree Doué final, doesn't it?
Well, it does, because once he'd made his mark, the first goal, his composure for the first goal, I can't tell you, how impressive that was. 19-year-old, clever movement all night to drift across from the right to the left, and then he, my eyes would have lit up in that situation. That would have been all about me, Steve, trying to finish it myself. He didn't, composed himself, realised Hakimi was in a much better position, and just just laid it on a plate for him. That was 1-0. He got the second via a deflection. But all evening he had that magic moment, didn't he, in the second half? A lovely little twirl and flick. A player full of confidence, full of it. Tucked his second goal away, PSG's third away with real composure. What a player he looks. You've got Kvaratskhelia on the other side, who's a talent. Dembele's work rate and what he brought for the team, the way he kept peeling off the inter centre halves into little pockets of space, getting things, linking the play up. Vitinha in the midfield, just making them tick, controlling the game. You've talked about the leadership at the back. I mean, there weren't any weak links, and for a team so young to show that composure, that belief, the way that they steamed away there to celebrate in front of the fans. I mean, they are a fit, energetic team, and you can't see anybody stopping them, really.
There's a really, really powerful moment now, which is happening just away to our left-hand side. So there is a Paris Saint-Germain tifo that has been unveiled to the left, and normally it's the kind of thing that they would only do pre-match, but they've obviously brought another one with them deliberately this afternoon, and it's just been laid out there, and it says Zana on it. It's the name of Luis Enrique's daughter, and she of course is no longer with us, as Julien Laurent was saying before, and he is standing at the bottom looking up at that. There's a number 8 shirt on the back as well, and all of a sudden the celebrations, which are so loud and so raucous, just move a little bit quieter. John, that's very powerful.
Yeah, very, and I think he's almost been overwhelmed by it actually when he saw it. I mean, what emotions for him. Just watching here, we've got a little bit of a concerning situation, because a number of the Paris Saint-Germain fans who are in the stands have now actually gone over the hoardings, and all of the players, and I can see the European club silver glinting away over on the far side, because that's where all of the players are, and many supporters. We've now got hundreds and hundreds of them who are going and joining in with this. You know, I'm sure it's all going to be good-natured, but even so, I think in an ideal world you would keep the fans in the crowd so everyone would be able to witness this. But more and more of them all at the same time are coming onto the field together. And I think the security forces down there that you've mentioned, which is quite surprising to see actually, that we've got helmeted security people all in a line who are just next to it and are just trying to contain this. And actually I think the team, the squad, the Paris Saint-Germain squad now have been advised and persuaded and asked to move out of that area and away from that stand. So we now have that line of police. I presume they're police, certainly security personnel with these helmets, these black helmets and visors on, who are standing in a line across the penalty area and holding back the supporters. It's quite obvious who the supporters are, because they're either in white shirts or they're bare shirted, whereas the squad now, the PSG squad, have moved away out of that area.
Yeah, and I mean, it was only about 2 minutes before that happened that I was just saying that the police who were out there hadn't at that stage been needed, and now all of a sudden there are absolutely hundreds and hundreds of fans on the pitch now, and they've it's almost like those being there have then convinced others that it's a good idea to go on, and that the goal is actually being moved back and forward now by PSG fans under the weight of them. There are people hanging off the inside of the goal net as well, and now I can see that there's a real rush happening on the far side of supporters back into the stands, and that line of police is still long and straight, but all of a sudden maybe like 20%, 15% of them have now disappeared back into the stands, and hopefully they can get the supporters off the pitch as quickly as possible, but there is still quite a lot on there.
Yeah, meanwhile, looking to my right, the Paris Saint-Germain players et al. Have now moved themselves all the way over to the area in front of the tunnel, and they're being ringed by stewards in pink bibs actually. So there are still some celebrations going on there, but it does have a feel of the celebrations having been curtailed for the time being. And in fact, I think they are heading down the tunnel, aren't they?
Yeah, well, normally, I mean, what time is it? 17 minutes past the hour. Normally, at least through till about 40 minutes after a final, you would have players still celebrating on the pitch in front of supporters, but looks like that's not been possible. We can see shots from inside the tunnel here where the PSG players are dancing down the tunnel now, heading toward the dressing room where there will be party number 2 of 5 or 6 parties. That was a message over the PA system here inside the Allianz Arena, I assume, something to the tune of please get off the pitch. And actually there's a line of stewards in front of the line of police. They've all got pink bibs on, and they're actually now just moving back the supporters all the way back towards the stands. So hopefully they're able just to hop back over the hoardings there.
Well, they're trying to force them back towards the stands, but I can see still plenty of people who are jumping down from the stands and jumping over the advertising hoardings. So I'm not sure they are of a mind, those who are on the pitch, even though they are being moved back. So, the sight is a massive crowd that is being forced further and further back towards the base of the stand there. And I think some people now have realised that they do have to turn tail and actually get back over the hoardings and take their places in the stand again.
There's somebody hanging off the crossbar. In fact, there's somebody standing on the crossbar now. I do just worry for the fans in and around that goal net, because the posts will probably come down at this rate, and there's also there's a few people tangled up in that net as well, and the person who's on top of the crossbar has just tried to get down and sort of fallen down into the arms of a group of supporters. But yeah, there are still now PSG fans who are just kind of climbing. The hoardings are actually quite high there. They're sort of having to step up and then reach over the top to get out of the way. And I would say that the line of stewards and line of police is not moving particularly quickly. So hopefully they're allowing enough time for those fans just to hop back over. But again, there's a fan climbing on top of the crossbar, and those posts, I think, are coming down, John.
Yeah, they are. And as you say, it does appear that people are caught up in the net, in the goal there. And, let's make it clear that these are still scenes of celebration. And, we don't see any sign of anyone taking hurt down there. But there are people still very tightly packed into a smaller and smaller area, as the police do, in that long, thick black line, force them back. And the hoardings there, the advertising hoardings for the Champions League, are particularly high.
Yeah.
So they do, it's an effort to get over that in a restricted area. And someone else has now climbed themselves up onto the crossbar of the goal, which is still we can see approximately the top third of the posts and the crossbar and the netting underneath it. And little by little, I think the people are being forced back, eventually off the pitch now and back into the stands. And let's just hope everyone's okay down there.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, it's not great that people come onto the pitch, clearly, but it's not really a discussion about behaviour at the minute. It's a discussion about safety, just to make sure everybody gets off safety. I can see that there's sort of a big red line that is being held by the stewards right at the front. So there's a line of sort of armed riot police who haven't been really getting involved beyond the fact that they are in a long line. We haven't seen anybody, using any of the gear that they have with them there. Then there's a line of pink-shirted stewards in front of them. And then stewards in yellow bibs who are just sort of holding up a big red ticker tape, which some fans are walking underneath. And now that sort of line is getting thinner and thinner, and fingers crossed, John, it looks like most of the fans now are either off the pitch or shortly will be off the pitch.
Yeah, I think probably by the nature of what's happened there and the effort involved to get out of the stands, over the hoardings and onto the pitch, you have to be relatively agile to do that. So, and there are no signs of anyone needing assistance that I can see from where we sit here. And now we can actually see the goal has been cleared now and is still standing, and the net is hanging down there now clearly, and we can see the base of both posts. So this security operation does appear to have been successful in moving everyone first off the pitch and then back into the stands.
Yeah, and I think it's probably a little telling that you may just have heard some Paris Saint-Germain fans chanting again, because it all went a little bit quiet as they were just trying to work out how to get people back off the pitch. So the line, which was, I mean, there must have been 500 on the pitch.
Yeah, thereabouts.
At one point, and now we're probably, 150, 200. So most of the work has been done. But as you say, the problem was, if you're a fan who's decided you want to get onto the pitch, it's relatively easy to hop over a hoarding. But to get back over it, just as an example, we're watching fans do it right now. They have to put two hands on the barrier and really heave themselves to get over the top, which obviously when you've got a lot of fans behind you can become quite a sticky situation. And that's another PA announcement, which I suspect is just underlining what's already been said. What it has done, John, has brought a really early end to the celebrations.
Yes, although I see Luis Enrique is still out there on the pitch and is actually conducting interviews. But I think all of the players have left the field and have gone to continue their celebrations out of sight for the time being, at least in the dressing rooms. And what we don't know is whether they would actually emerge again if everyone takes their place in the stand. I don't know whether that would happen or not.
Yeah, so we'll keep our eye on the left-hand side, but it does look like it's almost totally cleared now, fingers crossed, and just switch it back to the football, I think, then. Chris Sutton, and the question I was going to ask, I think, before all of this happened is, goodness me, you look at this Paris Saint-Germain team now, what is possible for them? They're so young.
Yeah, the age profile in the team, you mentioned Doué, Kvaratskhelia, Vitinho, Neves. Ruiz is getting on a little bit, but still sort of in his prime. Pacho, 23. Hakimi, he feels like he's been around forever, doesn't he? He's only 26. Nuno Mendes, the left back. So yeah, I mean it's where they go from here, really. But you think with Luis Enrique at the helm, this is a team who are just at the start of their evolution, really. The most impressive thing in all for me with this PSG team is their work ethic. They're brilliant on the ball. They have great technicians in the team. But this is a team, the difference is, under Luis Enrique, this is a team who are prepared to run, who are prepared to do the hard yards. They put the graft in, and that's why they were a success tonight, because they never let Inter play. There wasn't any moment in the game where Inter had control or, got a foothold. And we spoke about Inter's experience and their nous and, talked about them being streetwise. Tonight they looked anything but.
I think, John, in commentary, did you say that Doué was the third teenager to score in the European Cup final?
It actually said Champions League.
Champions League,
final,
okay. Yeah. So before tonight, we had two teenagers who'd scored in the final of the Champions League. We've doubled that number in one evening with PSG, because more than half of their goals, Mayoulou and two from Doué, came from teenagers. I mean, that to the rest of Europe, that's pretty ominous.
Yeah, and that is it. I suppose the thing is, PSG have got the riches to keep these players, haven't they? And you just had to witness what we saw tonight to know that this looks like a happy place to be, and it's appeared that way all season. And you've heard us how many times we've been there this season and have said the Parc des Princes is the place to be. And that's one of the best places to go and watch football. So therefore it would follow that if you're doing things like winning the Champions League, it's one of the best places to play football as well.
Yeah, and everybody talks about the Premier League being the best league in the world. People can have a debate about that, right or wrong. But you think about our best teams, Liverpool, and the way that Liverpool got away with one in the Parc des Princes, and yet they had the maturity, PSG, to go to Anfield and beat them. And look, it hasn't been an incredible Arsenal team this season, but they've still had enough about them. You think that they could have taken PSG's scalp. That didn't happen. They are a brilliantly well balanced team, and you're right. When you feel as a player like you're at the start of something and you're building something, that's an incredible feeling for these PSG players. An incredible position for them to be in. And, tonight they thoroughly deserved it. And it wasn't just winning, it was blowing Inter away.
Looks like now, just to our left-hand side, to confirm that all of the Paris Saint-Germain supporters that came onto the pitch are now off the pitch. I can see one more bare-chested fan who's actually standing on that hoarding that we were discussing that the fans had to climb over to get back off the pitch. I have to say, John, I think as a sort of, as an, I don't know what the right word is, an operation in that circumstances, it looks from what we can see that was handled very well and everyone has been able to get off okay.
Yeah, I think helped by the fact that there wasn't any, for want of a better word, aggro in there. They were all happy people and they were trying to get closer to the scenes of celebration, and yes, the security forces did not weigh in. As you said, they stood back and allowed people enough space to, although that was uncomfortable briefly.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, absolutely. Right, just before we go then, we've got a couple of minutes. Stephen Nolan is on the way shortly. Final thoughts from you both around Luis Enrique. Let me do the stat. The 6th manager to win the Champions League with 2 different clubs: Carlo Ancelotti, Ottmar Hitzfeld, Jupp Heynckes, Jose Mourinho and Pep Guardiola. And Pep Guardiola is the man, of course, that he's so influenced by and so compared to. Do we have to now say that Luis Enrique is amongst the best coaches of his generation? I think that's probably the least we have to say, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, in the way that he sets his team up, and his work ethic, and the way that he has built this PSG team. And we speak about the money that they have spent, and what their aim was while spending the money, and they've taken a hell of a long time to get where they want to be. But Luis Enrique is the guy that maybe the sort of final piece in the jigsaw, if you like, to actually get them there. Now it's about, they are the team to beat. Can they maintain it? But in terms of top European managers of all time, then he has to be in that category.
And I think just a thought on what has been a new look Champions League this season, which, as you both know, I'm still not absolutely sold on. I'm not sure it's as fair as it should be, certainly in the league phase. Knockout stage is probably as good as it's ever been, because you can't mess with that, a two-leg knockout scenario. But I mean, some of the memories that we've had from this Champions League, I'm thinking Aston Villa, Chris, when we watched them beat Bayern Munich, that was an incredible night. Liverpool winning their first 7 matches. Celtic finishing 21st and Manchester City 22nd in the table. Remember the group match, Barcelona in Lisbon against Benfica on the wet night. That was an amazing game. I think the last night of it, the 36-team group, I'm still having nightmares about that. Mbappe's hat-trick in the Bernabeu against Manchester City, that was a memory. Liverpool, Paris Saint-Germain, and what happened in that tie. Rice Baby, of course, we can't forget that. And then
you had the Villa comeback, didn't you, against PSG? And you think, blimey.
Yeah, Inter Barca. One of the most amazing. Well, both of them. One of the most amazing ties that we've ever seen. But in the end, I strongly feel that we've seen the team of this season emerge in the way that they've done, and the way that they've done it to record a record margin of victory for a European final. Only the 3rd team to get 5 goals or more in a European Cup or Champions League final, and this is the 70th one of those. That banner before the match in amongst the PSG supporters said, "Together we are invincible." Well, they've not been invincible. They've lost 5 matches in the Champions League this season, but they are the champions.
There will be lots of complicated opinions about this new Champions League. There will be people who look at this and say, hang on a second, the team that finished 15th in the league phase have just won the European Cup. There will be lots more who say PSG were the best team in the European Cup this season, and they have won it. Chris, John, thank you both very much indeed. Chris Sutton, correspondent John Murray. Ticker tape everywhere on the pitch here at the Allianz Arena. Paris Saint-Germain have won the European Cup for the first time in their history. Stephen Nolan up next on 5 Live after the news with Shojo Saka.